Welcome to the SNA Live Podcast, hosted by Three the Hard Way. This is for the culture. Black and Latinx. Where you at?
What's good, cigar fam, and welcome to SNA Live, the podcast not just about cigars and cigar lounges, but life in general. Because if you're smoking cigars with your peoples in a nice lounge and only talking about cigars, then you missed the whole motherfucking point. We're recording as always from Smoking Ashes, Cigars and Haberdashery, the newest, hottest cigar lounge in these continental United States. Now seen on one institution's media platform, in addition to our usual platforms. With me as always are my partners in crime, Malik and Ryan. Say what's up to the people.
Yo, what's going on?
What up, fam? What's going on? Welcome to the show, baby.
This is episode number 3, 80's babies, because that's who we are and that's the era we grew up in. During this episode, we're going to be talking about Krizak. We're going to be talking about hip-hop. And we're going to do our segment Notable Mention, shouting out the illustrious Mr. Dapper Dan. We're also going to have our last call. In our last call, we're going to have our bonus topic talking about the WWF.
Yes, not the E.
No. Back with before, we're not talking about the World Federation,
Yeah.
Wildlife Federation. Yeah. No. Like original wrestling, where we talking about Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, Iron Sheik, people like that. And as usual, we're gonna end it off with the "What You Rockin' With" segment. And with that being said, as usual, cut your stick, light 'em up, and let's get it poppin'.
Welcome to SNA Live, a podcast like no other. Featuring Three the Hard Way. You want it, you got it.
Yes. Welcome back, episode 3, 80's babies. If you ask me, it's one of the best eras in the best decade. So much happened in the 80s. A lot of good, a lot of bad, a lot of happy, a lot of sad. But right now, it's a perfect time to grab your stick, grab a seat, grab your drink, and let's rock.
Episode number 3, 80's babies. Yo, I'm amped about this episode.
Yes, sir.
Like Ryan said, man, it was a great decade. It was a lot of bad, a lot of sad, but a lot of great came out of that decade. A lot of great came out of that era. You know, like, and that's we're product of the 80s. You know, that's why we entitled it 80's babies. You know, myself, I was born in October 78. Leak was born in May of 79. Rye was born in May of 80. So all we knew growing up as kids was the 80s. You know, so obviously by the 90s, we're becoming adolescents and teenagers, but the 80s is what shaped us. We're definitely amped and excited about this episode. But before we get to our first topic, as usual, we're going to get into what we're smoking and what we're drinking. So, Ryan, I'm going to let you set it off. Tell us what you're smoking for this episode.
I am enjoying right now a cigar that's been talked about a lot before we actually carried it here. We just got this in recently. It's Pichardo Classico.
I had it the other day.
All right, so you're looking at a complex piece of art right here. You're gonna have a Sumatra Ecuadorian wrapper. You have a Habano Nicaraguan filler, and then you have more fillers and binders from Jalapa, Condega, Ometepe, and they're all Nicaraguan. So it's a Nicaraguan puro inside.
Nice.
You know, with the Ecuadorian Sumatra wrap. This cigar was put together by one of the best blenders in the world.
I think some motherfuckers gonna have to get out the Rosetta Stone to understand what you just said right there.
Yeah, so you know what's funny when you talk about South America and the regions, they are kind of like Aztecian, you know, has still like a lot of that, you know, the name of their regions.
Yeah. No, I get it.
But at the end of the day, though, one of the best blenders ever put this together, Don Herrario Pichardo. So this cigar was brought to our attention by Mike the Greek.
What up, Mike?
Mike, what up?
Mike right now is doing a great humanitarian work out in Nicaragua, helping kids that are born with disabilities. And, he's just doing some humanitarian work. But Mike is out in Nicaragua right now doing this thing.
Definitely.
And
shout out Mike.
Yeah, thank you for getting this stick here. It's a great smoke so far. Once you lit it up, you got hit with a little bit of flavor nuances. It's actually my perfect smoking size.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. I'm not. I don't like big gauge.
Yeah.
So this is like a 50. It's like a 50 by 6.5. So it's like it's just perfect size to actually taste the blend thoroughly.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's on me, man. And Malik, what are you smoking on?
So I went back to Old Faithful, the Tatuaje line. This is the Kohonu 2003 Reserva broadleaf. So y'all know I'm a big broadleaf fan.
Yeah, I haven't had that one in easily 3-4 years. That spot in Jersey, that Soprano spot you took me to. That was the last time I had a Tatuaje like that.
Good, really good cigar. Again, Connecticut broadleaf wrapper. Nicaraguan fillers and binders, so this is a really good cigar. If you know Tatuaje, you know that they make a lot of strong cigars. Yeah. I'm gonna take my time with this tonight. Again, it's flavor bomb. You get some sweetness, you get some white pepper. You get a little in the middle of it. It starts changing a little. You get a little like a chocolate syrupy type of flavor going on. But definitely a really good cigar. It's good construction and it burns really slow. So that's the reason why I picked it tonight. Obviously, we're gonna be here for a while, so I wanted to stay with one cigar. But Tatuaje.
Nice.
Can't go wrong with that, baby.
What about you, Common? What are you smoking, man?
So we've had this cigar in the humidor for a little while, and I was surprised when I picked it out, and both of you said that you hadn't gotten to it yet. So one of my favorite cigars back in the day was the Long Live the King by Caldwell, and we recently we've had this now for almost a month now, right?
Bad Mofo. I think we had a little longer.
Yeah.
Wow, time flies. Okay, so it's the Bad Mofo by Caldwell. It has the same logo as the Long Live the King, except if I remember correctly, the Long Live the King had red and white, and this has
they
blue
changed
and white.
the color scheme.
Yeah, so still by Caldwell.
Their artwork is always fire.
Yo, I was sitting here looking at this picture, and I was like, that would be an ill tattoo.
It's fire. It is. Their artwork is fire.
Yeah, it really is. Like, I don't know if I have anywhere left on my body to put it, but because I got mad tats, but it's.
I might have just took that.
Find some.
I'm taking that. I'm getting it.
Stop biting my style, son. So it has the Mexican San Andreas wrapper, which I recently fell in love with. I'm always
that was one of our first, right?
Yeah, definitely.
When we first started, Mexican San Andreas is one of our go-tos.
Yeah, yo, it's such an amazing. It gives it such an amazing taste and flavor. It also has an Indonesian binder.
Oh, there we go. So that's what's the change, right?
Yeah. So, and I don't hold myself up to be as much of a cigar aficionado like Malik and Ryan, but I know my way around the humidor. But I can't front. I think this is one of my first times smoking a cigar with an Indonesian binder.
Yeah, because you didn't get to try those Lost and Founds yet.
Exactly. So, and then
same guy, by the way, Caldwell.
Yeah, same company.
Cool. And then a Corojo filler. So it's supposed to. So I obviously just lit it up. So I've never smoked this before. My first time. It's supposed to give flavors of milk chocolate, black pepper, oak, and like a leathery type of finish. So I'll chime back in, when we're midway through the episode and let y'all know. But I will say this though. Not to say that just because you have one or two pulls of something means it's going to be consistent all the way through. But you can always tell a special cigar over those first couple pulls.
Oh, definitely.
And if as long as it doesn't go crazy or go left midway through, you're going to have a good smoke. And so far, off the first few pulls,
enjoying it.
This is a good smoke.
That's good, man. That's good. For me, I got to let it transition at least to the second, third.
Yeah, I let it.
But even then, sometimes I get a little nervous because it could still finish off sour or pungent.
Get harsh. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But at least it's a good start. You know what I'm saying? Like, because some cigars
they start off horrible.
Exactly.
And you don't even want to continue.
You don't want to give it a chance after that. Yeah.
This shit's a wrap after that. You're like, this is the king of that shit right here. This is here. Malik is the cigar diva. He would be like this.
By half of it, if nothing's going on, I'm
like,
less.
Lick in the first third, be like,
flicking it like a cigarette. Flicking it like a cigarette. Get out of here.
We was doing an episode here one day. I think you ran through like 3 in the first. We were just going through the first part of the show.
Yeah.
Hated it.
Yeah, I do remember that. You just was like, nah, I'm going to the, like, you just left in the middle of the fucking
Yeah, no, he was
like,
done. He
going to
just
the
got up
humidor.
and just said, yeah, I'm done with this. It's Cartman. Screw you guys. I'm going home.
Take it.
So we can't jump to the topic until we talk about what we're drinking. So what we're drinking today is kind of
Old Faithful right there.
yeah.
Definitely.
So I'm pretty sure we drank this in season 1 at some point.
we had it
definitely
one time.
had.
Yeah.
We definitely
Okay.
had.
Yeah.
So for those that haven't listened to season 1 and are just now, coming on up on us on season 2, Balvenie is what we're drinking, the 12-year double wood Scotch. So, little backstory: I myself got put onto Balvenie years ago. I was leaving the cigar in Midtown Manhattan on 2nd Ave between 53rd and 54th, and I was leaving, going to a bar. I was with a friend, and we hit the bar. It's like about a half a block and a half away from the cigar inn, going in the downtown direction, right on 2nd Ave. And at the time, I was drinking Glenfiddich. So I go to the bar. I go up to the bartender. I said, hey, you guys have Glenfiddich? He's like, yeah. I said, all right, let me get a Glenfiddich neat. For those that don't know, that's another Scotch. It's a 12-year, which is what I usually drink. And at the time, was my favorite Scotch.
And if you don't know what neat is, it means with no ice. And normally, a lot of bartenders don't know this, it's basically a double.
Yeah.
Some people won't pour it as a true double.
And at room temperature.
Yes, straight off the shelf.
So the bartender looks at me and he's like, okay, I'll give you the Glenfiddich for free if I give you another drink and you don't like the other drink. So I was like, bet. Like, let's go.
This is good. It's a win-win for me right now.
Exactly, because I'm like, yo, Glenfiddich's my favorite Scotch at the time, right? This is about like 7-8 years ago. So I was like, at the time, I'm like, oh, bet, like, let's go, let's do it. Like, put the drink down.
Yeah.
So he doesn't show me what he pours. Like, he turns his back, he puts it underneath the bar, pours it, puts the glass on the table. I take a sip. And I take the sip just knowing, I'm like, this is gonna be some bullshit. It's not gonna be as good as Glenfiddich.
Got you.
Now keep in mind, I thought I knew good Scotch at the time, but I looking back on it, I kind of just got introduced.
Yeah, you was
to
an
Scotch.
amateur.
Yeah, I was.
You was an amateur.
I was. Mind me no front. So I took a sip, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And he was like, "That, sir, is called Balvenie." And I was like, "Well then, sir, this is now my new favorite Scotch."
Yep. It'll do it to you.
Thought I was gonna be drinking for free tonight, but I guess not. So from that moment on, I was a fan of Balvenie. So flash forward about 2-3 years, Malik, you have a barbecue in your backyard.
Yeah.
I don't, was it Memorial Day, July 4th, or was it just
I think
like
Malik
4th of July?
Yeah, you used to do 4th because
4th
I
of
did
July.
Memorial
Yeah, you did
Day.
Memorial, so it's 4th of July.
So it's 4th of July. So I wasn't telling you guys that I was gonna bring it, and I don't think I had ever had that conversation with
I think
you
we got
guys.
whopped that day.
Yeah,
we used to get whopped at those
Yeah, we
barbecues.
did. So I bring over the Balvenie, and I just pull it out the bag and don't say nothing. People are like, what is this? What is this? Like, just taste it. And Shorty was there. Shannon was there, and she had not even a Scotch person.
Yeah.
And that's how you know it's a good Scotch when you're not even a Scotch person.
And they appreciate it.
And that was the
Like, what
Caribbean
is this?
cast, wasn't it?
No, that was
No, he
that was
bought
12
12
year.
year.
It was
He bought
12 year
12
double
year.
wood.
Okay.
12 year double wood, and I'm passing it out to people, and everybody's like, "Yo,
What is
What
this?
the fuck is
what
this?
is this?" So, for everybody's just education on what this is, it's when they say double wood, it's because it's soaked in 2 different casks. It's soaked in a sherry cask, and it's soaked in I think it's a regular cask. I'm trying to remember the other cask that it's.
I think it's a regular.
It's an oak cask.
It's an oak cask.
It's oak. It's 1 oak and then 1 sherry. It's aged 12 years. So for those who don't drink Scotch or don't even know about like aging processes or whatever, when you age a liquor, it becomes more refined. It becomes smoother, becomes more expensive.
Yeah.
But usually it ends up being a better drink. So Balvenie was one of those scotches that, amongst other cigars that we would smoke, was one of those scotches that just kind of was like the onset of this whole thing with us.
Yeah, I would have to agree with
Listen,
that.
I didn't even drink scotch until you actually brought this to my attention. Now, ever since then, it's Balvenie. Now.
Yeah, I was
wasn't even
heavy. I was
wasn't a big
heavy
scotch
into the
drinker.
bourbons.
Yeah, I
would
was a
touch
bourbon
into
and rum
scotch
guy.
when I didn't really feel like having a bourbon, but I drank more bourbon back in the day.
Yeah, I wasn't a big scotch guy.
Now the tables are turned for me though. I'm a scotch
Nah,
guy.
you're a scotch guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you can. Scotch is not as heavy as bourbon.
Yes.
And don't get us wrong. Like we'll still drink bourbon.
Oh yeah, don't get it fucked up. I mean,
Because you can't have Balvenie every single time.
No, you
you want to be able to appreciate it. And I didn't tell you guys that I was bringing this today because it's been a little while since we've had it.
Definitely been a minute. It's been a minute.
So I was like, you know what? Since we're doing 80s babies, it's a throwback
Yeah,
episode.
we bring a
Let me do
throwback.
Throwback, exactly,
Yes, sir.
exactly. So speaking about 80s babies, let's get into the first topic. And our first topic is crack. Now, if you were alive in the 80s, whether you were a kid, whether you were an adult, whether you were a teenager, the one thing that the decade definitely was known for was the crack epidemic.
especially if you lived in the inner cities.
Exactly. And we're Bronx dudes. Myself, Malik, Bronx and Yonkers, Ryan, all Bronx. So either way, crack played a huge
Oh, no,
role
yeah.
Definitely.
in both environments.
We used to call Yonkers the Upper Bronx.
Yeah, that's basically all it was. That's all it was.
so for the-
North Bronx.
Those
Yeah,
are not from New
North
York.
Bronx.
North
yeah.
Bronx.
Yeah, those who are not from New York. Yonkers is basically the first city right after the Bronx. So the Bronx goes from, I want to say 135th all the way up to 242nd.
Yeah, and it
then
breaks
after
off right
242nd on Broadway, the next block over is the beginning of Yonkers. So shout out YO. So either way, you split it. Like whether it be Bronx, Yonkers, like crack hit hard. So let's talk about you guys' experience in when you first heard about it, when you first experienced like your first crackhead, when you first experienced like, oh, okay, I get what's going on now. Because keep in mind, like we said, we're 80s babies, meaning by the end of the era, at the oldest, I think, because I'm the oldest of the three, I was 12 at the end of it. You know what I'm saying? So we're still not old enough to be in the game or old enough to have it affect us directly.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, obviously, you know, there were some people, unfortunately, that fell victim and became crackheads. And there were some people that were slinging it. So we were too young for that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But at the same
To
time,
be a part of it.
To be a
Yeah,
part
to
of
be
it.
a part of it,
But it
Like
doesn't,
physically, yes.
But it didn't mean it didn't impact you. Because I know, I can speak for myself personally, it impacted me. And I know just in our previous conversations, it's definitely impacted the both of you guys.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my memories, I've told you guys this story before. I think I might have been 7, 8 years old. Probably about 8 years old. And outside in front of my building, Ravine Ave, playing in the dirt by myself, sitting there just digging in the dirt. I don't know what I was doing. I must have been digging for something and kind of making little sandcastles, whatever I was doing. And I just remember digging and like seeing these little colorful vase. I'm like, oh, this is cool. What is this? And it like literally started playing with them. It was like 4 or 5 of them buried. 2 days later, when it came out again, I was in another spot digging. Another one. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
So later on, obviously,
like buried treasure or
Yeah, it was
something like
buried.
that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
as I got older, obviously, I realized that's where the drug dealers they were stashing. That's where they were hiding their their work.
Yeah.
But I mean that, and then just seeing people transform. So specifically, women. I mean, at least in my experience, that's when I really saw it because I would see the most beautiful woman. Specifically, you know who I'm talking about in our hood.
Yep.
This woman was beautiful, like drop dead gorgeous, and like within
Emphasis on was.
within a year, she looked like a freaking zombie, dude. And it was like, I'm like, yo,
Straight Michael Jackson thriller.
yo, what the hell happened to her? I'm like, oh, and then that's when kind of the word crack started coming back around, and that's when kids would make fun. Your mother's a crackhead.
Yeah.
Remember that? That was big. That's why your mother's a crackhead.
That was the number one jab.
That
right
was
there.
the number one jab. Yo, fights used to get started over that. Call somebody somebody's parents a crackhead.
I'm gonna bring it back even further. It wasn't even crackhead. It was basehead.
Basehead, yes.
Remember that?
No. Bass was worse.
A basehead, yeah.
Like, I don't know.
And
If
y'all
I heard
used to say basehead.
Basehead,
But when
though,
you
yeah.
heard
Basehead.
bass, though, bass was worse.
Yeah,
Like,
oh,
you
yeah,
took that
definitely.
harder than a crackhead. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It just hit harder because you think about the pipe for real. and shit.
But yeah, man. I mean, again, my experience was just that's when I really started noticing. It was the women because I'm just like you see women just transform from one thing to looking like they were on their last leg about to die, man. And then you know, it was just, and I had friends who actually one of the ladies was a good friend of mine's mom, and I used to go over his house and I used to hang out, and then next thing I know, every time I used to go over his house, she was never there. She was never there. I'm like, yo, where your mom at? I don't know. She out, so I don't know. She went somewhere, and he knew what was going on.
Yeah, exactly. She was trying to get that hit.
As I got older, I felt sorry for the dude. I'm like, damn, yo, his mom. I think she wound up dying like maybe 4 or 5 years later. You know what I'm saying? So
that's crazy.
I mean, my memories. I would say, no, I didn't have anybody in my family, close in my family, who succumbed to it. But just growing up around it at a young age, you know, it was definitely disturbing, and it helped us become who we are today. If you think about it, I mean, at the end of the day, we had to grow up around that environment.
It showed you what you did not want to be.
Exactly. Thank God we had good parents who made sure we didn't get in that, and our parents didn't get involved in that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, that was my experience. Again, I try to focus more on how it really impacted me is because as a woman, seeing women, and there's a study actually that a large majority of the people who succumbed to crack, a lot of them were the women, and again they were having the babies, and then that's when they created, you know,
it's a chain reaction.
Chain reaction, exactly.
Like, best believe for a long time in this country, black women are the backbone of the black community. So when they go,
well, but that's strategic though.
Yeah.
And if you break the household and you break the family line, that's gonna set them back right there, just decades.
And then
if we attack grandma and mom, think about how that breaks a family.
Yeah, and then arrest the males.
And I was about to say that, and then destroy the male.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You're done.
Put them in jail.
You're done.
Yeah.
Now you got a record, even if it's something simple, you're still coming out. You can't get a job.
Yeah.
That was pretty much the schematic to that whole thing.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I mean, but Rod, you were in a different neighborhood, and you lived on basically the Carter of the Bronx. So I know you had a whole other experience.
One of the Carters of the Bronx. No, I definitely did. Listen, I grew up on Webb Avenue between 190th and Kingsbridge, and that building there had the perfect demographic for the setup that they were doing. First of all, the building itself was designed like a castle. So it has a grand courtyard in the middle, and it has 2 points that come out. Basically, it's a big U. The building itself.
On an extreme side note, the Bronx has some beautiful architecture.
The architecture on it is amazing. No, it's true though.
Like, if you really sit back,
it's
beautiful architecture.
Like, if you
but
really
it is
sit back,
true though.
It's crazy.
Yo, if you go into the shittiest neighborhoods in the Bronx, yo, like just go down to like 167 all the time where you worked at, that area where you work at.
On the concourse?
The concourse was Park Avenue before Park Avenue was Park Avenue.
Yeah.
So the architecture there is crazy.
crazy.
You go to some of the buildings, like, yo, they put up some structures back there.
Yeah,
definitely.
Like, I still remember my apartment vividly. My apartment was huge.
And they've gone to shit, but like originally, like it was nice. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's all good, man. So again, my building, the layout of it was like a giant U, almost like a penitentiary in a sense. Because if you look at most penitentiaries, they're built like that.
Yeah.
But we had like a Manhattan Avenue size block. Like to get from Kingsbridge to 190th, it was literally like a Manhattan Avenue wide.
Yeah.
So, and no streets in the middle. So it was literally one long ass block that was a one-way street.
Yeah, one way.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you had lookouts from every point. You can even set up lookouts on the corners. And they were facilitated to do whatever they needed to do to run the operation they did because of the layout of that building.
And because it's a one-way street, it's even easier.
Exactly.
Because now you can flag everything coming into the block.
Bro, I'm talking about to the specifics, like when traffic would die down on the block, everyone would get highlighted. Whoever was on watch, they'd be on watch even more, because that means that they're plugging the cars up on Kingsbridge to stop them from coming down, so the cops could come up the one-way street and try to blitz them from another side. Like it was like that. Like they had it down to a science like that.
So speaking about having it down to a science, so you're talking about it from the selling aspect, and it's unfortunate to a certain extent because, you know, they kind of get lauded as heroes of the hood. But the reality is a lot of dudes came up in the 80s and was caking off. So the movie Paid in Full, there's a lot of people that are a little bit younger that watch that movie. They're like, oh, this was a cool movie. And don't realize they were based on real life dudes getting money very early in life.
So that's what I saw that too. So the three brothers that ran my building, they were young Dominican dudes. And when you talk about brand new cars every summer, They wasn't rocking like regular Beamers and Benzes. They had Alfa Romeros out there. Shit that was
before
like,
motherfuckers even knew what those were.
Bro.
Yeah.
Facts, man. I had a Fiero. There was a Fiero on my block.
Or the 6 Series Beamer.
Yes.
Before they even like came back out. It was like the big ass coupe, and you're like, what is it?
650i's.
Yeah, yep.
Another one, the coupe.
Yeah.
Dude, never saw that anywhere else other than my block.
And it's like it would look like a fucking spaceship because you're like, what is this?
Yeah. But I will take you somewhere real quick on a dark tote. Like I lived in a building that had 120 apartments, and out of all 120, like 80 something of them were either drug, gun, or prostitution related.
Like you said, like the Carter.
Yes. So
by the way, for those who are too young, the Carter, we're referring to the movie New Jack City. If you have not seen New Jack City,
smack yourself.
Smack yourself in the face, dumb hard.
Yeah, real hard.
You are missing out on a fucking classic.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. But crack hit hard around me. Like you had mentioned like watching Friends. I've had, as a young teenager, 12, 13, the neighborhood dudes, especially the brothers, they used to make sure that everybody took care of the building. Everybody had ownership in the building, and they were smart on how they did that. Like they would put money in our pockets just to make sure that we paid attention to anybody talking about anything there.
Smart move.
So when we would do certain, yes, bro, it was very methodical on what they did.
Yeah.
So I remember seeing my friends' mothers come into the building. Bro, I was 13 years old. I got offered a blowjob from one of my friends' moms to get him some crack.
Oh my God.
In the hallway.
But that's what crack was doing to people.
Yeah, man.
And I had one particular lawyer that's the first white dude that used to come to my hood. I think I talked to you guys about this story before.
I remember him. Yeah.
And he used to come through dipped. He had a fresh Beamer, cool dude, wild personality. Just for him being a wild dude, a white dude who was wild, coming to the hood with his bubbly personality, coming with these fucking fine, the suits was fine tailored. Yeah, he was a done up dude. But he would come and I watch him from year to year. Car would change. The suits got less fitted. Then the suit wasn't a suit anymore.
Shoes are scuffed.
Now he's walking.
Yeah, instead of driving.
Now he ain't getting haircuts.
Not shaving, probably.
Nothing, bro. And now, and remember, this guy was a lawyer. He was a lawyer, and then he just stopped coming.
So for people who are not aware, attorneys, in terms of professions that are the most controlled substance consumers, lawyers are top 5. It's doctors number 1 because they have the access to the fucking drugs.
Literally.
Cops are up there.
They also have access to the drugs.
Yeah, exactly. And lawyers are right up there. Yeah. Right the fuck up there.
They
so
gotta be, though.
This story is not fucking surprising at all.
No, but it's very sad. You know what I mean? But like Leek said, man, I grew up, we didn't have, the parks weren't the safest space neither, especially during that era. So we used to do our makeshift basketball courts outside using milk crates and shit.
Yeah.
But I remember playing ball outside of the whole aspect of already living in it. But like Leek said, he was playing with it. I remember the puddles from rain when it would rain, and there would be at least 20 to 30 of those vials floating in a puddle.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like it's bad. Like we would lose handle dribbling because you would hit a fucking crack vial and the ball go the other way. Like fuck.
So I used to play ball on 3rd Ave, between East 169 and 170th, and same thing. Like, and it was also another court on Washington, right in Morris houses, and same thing, man. Like you would, and early on, because they were empty, they were always empty. Like it wasn't
of course they was empty. They would never fill.
Like just so we're clear, they were empty. The crackhead's not gonna lose his fucking vial with
if you find and fill vials, you about to get fucked up because you just ran up on somebody's stash or some shit.
Yeah.
Those shits was always empty.
No, always. But yeah, like definitely. So like on the flip side of that though, like I was saying earlier, like there was a lot of dudes getting money, and the sad part is, and we can only speak about it from being New Yorkers or whatever, but a lot of dudes saw the opportunities a little further down south, Baltimore, DC. Matter of fact, Alpo.
DC,
I think that's where Alpo got shot, right? He got shot in DC.
DC,
yes.
DC is where it's at.
So like,
Paid in full reference.
DC and Baltimore still to this, actually not so much DC, Baltimore though.
Baltimore? Have you been in Baltimore?
Yo,
lately?
you know what, man?
It changed, right?
No, it's the same. It hasn't changed. That's the
Yo,
problem.
I wish I had pre-planned this. I
Dude.
should have actually called
Oh
my
my
man, because
God.
my man's a detective down there.
Yeah.
His first 2 months on the job, he got shot and stabbed. Yo, shout out to my man Dre.
Dre, what up? Yo,
his
it's like
story,
Zombieland. You go in so
Yo, he said
I was
it though.
at
It's
a
like
light
country
one time.
out there, bro.
I was
It's-
at a light one time. I'm looking like, oh shit, nigga, I need to get out of here.
So here's the thing. We're talking about an epidemic that hit in the 80s and early 90s.
Baltimore, parts of Baltimore, not all of Baltimore. I
So
don't want to
it's
shit
all-
on them, but
yeah.
parts of Baltimore still look like the 80s.
So
dude.
it's 30
sad.
years ago.
It's sad.
But that's how hard the epidemic hit. And
But remember one
we're
thing,
kind
though.
of responsible for that.
No, we're
We-
very responsible.
Like we
for that.
brought a lot of work into those cities.
Yes, definitely.
A lot of work.
We brought everything though. If you think about it, it all started with things like drugs, then to culture, to music, because there was no internet. So people only heard things through tapes, through
Yeah.
CDs, things that were
Yeah.
imported.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we did channel a lot of shit to the South. We definitely did. The problem is though that being in metropolises like ours, we filter through phases faster than the ones on the outskirts. do.
Yeah, definitely.
So like they're just getting into a prime of something when we've passed it like
because
2 years ago.
we're the innovators.
Yes,
we're the
metropolises
innovators.
usually are, especially places like New York and LA.
Yeah. So, speaking of uptown peoples, we have to
innovators.
Yeah, we have to get into our notable mention segment of the illustrious Mr. Dapper Dan.
It's the SNA Live Podcast, and it's time for the notable mention. Here we go!
So, for those who don't know who Dapper Dan is, you've heard him referenced in rap songs. On the Blueprint album, Jay-Z said, "Wear a G on my chest, I
I
don't
was
need
just
Dapper
singing
Dan.
that in my head, bro.
This
That's
ain't a song
crazy.
outfit, Holmes is
It's
about
about
it.
it.
Was clapping them flamers before
Before
it became famous. Playing me, y'all shall forever remain nameless." So, who he was referencing was Daniel R. Day. And last year, during this pandemic, when I had a little bit more downtime, I read the autobiography of Mr. Dapper Dan. So, Dapper Dan was a hustler. He was an entrepreneur. He was a businessman. He was an innovator. And contrary to popular belief, a lot of people thought he was a tailor. So he wasn't, actually. And to be honest, I didn't even know that until I read the
didn't know
autobiography.
either. Yeah.
So I thought he was making the suits. I thought he was making the coats. I thought he was making the jackets and making all this fly gear. So what he did was he saw what the
Pulse.
vibe, the pulse was, what the vibe was, and what people wanted. So the 80s, once again, you had a lot of hustler dudes, a lot of dudes making money, crazy amounts of money. Like I'm talking about like new cars every week, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Chains, and with that, you can now afford high fashion. You can now afford Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Fendi, where dudes didn't even know about that stuff the decade prior. So what he saw was, okay, dudes is getting money, they're gonna want to stunt, you know what I mean? So what he did was he hired a couple of tailors, but he had the vision of what the patterns would be. And so for those that don't know, when you watch Paid in Full, and you see Cameron, who's played, what was the name of the dude he played? They didn't say
Rico.
Alpo. Rico, yes, exactly.
Yeah, he played Rico.
The Louis Vuitton coat that he had, that was Dapper Dan. The Paid in Full, Eric B. and Rakim album, on the cover, when you see them wearing the Gucci leathers, that was Dapper Dan.
Salt and pepper.
Salt and Pepper,
Salt and Pepper,
on
yeah.
the song Push It, that was on the video Push It.
Yep.
That was Dapper Dan. He was going to these Fifth Ave boutiques, and he would originally buy their bags.
Because there were larger surfaces.
Exactly. And he would cut them up, and then he would make coats, he'd make jackets, he'd make hats, and then sell them at this little boutique in Harlem. And dudes was loving it, to the point where his spot became like a hangout spot, to the point where also he was known for being open late night, like kind of how we are, to the point where he had a cot in the back. He would sleep there because people knew, 1 o'clock in the morning.
I was about to say that. Usually celebrities of that status, they move at night. And if they were going to move at night and they're going to go make a purchase or at least place an order, it's going to be very low key because they don't want nobody seeing that they're even doing it. Because they're fucking very protective of their intellect and their thoughts and their whatever. So I could see that happening, being that late night.
And he eventually got sued by people like Gucci and people like
Of course. Well, you know what that is. Like, wait a minute, black dude.
Yeah, exactly. Slow down.
Yeah, you're not going to be making more off of our shit than we are.
The beautiful part is, at the end of all this, Gucci ended up hiring him as a consultant.
Exactly. That's where we're at now.
I saw him on Lenox Ave about 2-3 summers ago. I was with my wife. Well, my wife now, but then my girlfriend. And we were driving down Lenox, and it was like Lenox and like 123, somewhere around where Harlem Haberdashery is. Yeah. And he was standing on the corner, and I slowed down. I said, "Babe, you know who that is?" She was like, "Who's that?" I said, "Yo, it's Dapper Dan." And the funny part is, he was wearing a suit. It wasn't the same suit, but like kind of the same style as the one he's wearing on the cover of this book right now. And that's why he stood out. Nice. It was like a red type of plaid checker type of thing, and I was like, "Yo." Still sharp, and Dapper Dan is like in the 70s. Right?
I was just about to ask that question. What's his age now?
Yeah, he's in the 70s. He's still doing it, man. He's still doing it. So our notable mention is Dapper Dan, man. Like, he was an innovator. He was such a key in the hip hop movement in the 80s. Matter of fact, it was an LL Cool J video where the seats. He's the first dude to ever do this.
I remember that.
Oh, and what fucking video was that?
Was that a Saab that he had?
No, it was a Jeep.
No, it was a Jeep. I think it was the Pink Cookies video, maybe.
Yeah, it might have been that.
Or Booming System. It had to be one of those.
It was Booming System. That was Dapper Dan's Jeep.
That's crazy.
All these rappers that y'all thought was getting money at the time was borrowing a lot of shit.
Of course, bro.
And that was Dapper Dan's Jeep,
Of
man.
course.
Shout out Dapper Dan, man.
And I would say that he definitely got paid for that, too.
Yeah.
Innovator and hustle.
But that's what most of the gentlemen did back in the day. And ladies, too. They were innovators, man.
Definitely. So speaking about LL, we got to get into hip-hop and hip-hop in the 80s. So I'm going to kick this topic off and want to ask y'all, who was your favorite rapper out of that era?
80s? Oh, it was easy for me.
Really?
And go ahead, Dan. Speak on it.
Rakim.
All right, so this is where so the argument when it comes to 80s hip-hop, remember, those guys were tagged as a tag team.
Ooh.
It was Eric B and Rakim.
Yeah, but I mean,
I'm just saying though, just to
he
be,
was spitting. He was behind the mic, you know.
I know, but it was still a show
Eric B
though.
didn't say nothing. Eric B just sit there with the mean grill, like.
I didn't hear Eric B's voice until like the 2000s.
Exactly.
Yo, you ain't lying, bro.
He never talked.
I had no idea what that man sounded like.
But yo, Rakim was just he was just a different style. Like the Nas's and Jadakisses came from Rakim. There would be no
a lot of people came from Rakim. Absolutely.
For Rakim. So that was for me. That was Rakim. Man.
Yeah, I mean,
Big Daddy Kane too. Big Daddy Kane.
Listen, it's got to be a couple guys that are just up there. But yo, true to what you said, Rakim definitely has to be the leader of the pack.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But there was so many artists that came out during that era. I mean, L went hard back then, bro.
So, and I've had this conversation with Malik before. Fat Joe is one of my favorite rappers. And I was watching an interview with him one time, and he was talking about his favorite rapper. And it shocked the shit out of me. He said his favorite rapper, still to this day, of all time, is LL Cool J.
Yeah, I'm telling you, yo, what L did back then was just different, bro. Like, he was the first dude that really made it cool to be hard and smooth at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, real talk.
Like how Biggie kind of meshed that.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very rare. Only a couple of those guys were able to pull that off. Yeah. L was one of those. But I mean, yo, there was so many popular groups too that, I mean.
Yeah, the groups.
Run DMC.
Yeah.
Of course.
Public Enemy. You know, let's not forget the show with fucking Dougie Fresh and fucking Slick Rick. I mean.
Yeah. It's tough. Like, I didn't ask that question because it was an easy question.
And speaking of too, man, let's get a moment of silence, man, because we recently lost Prince Marky D.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The Fat Boys.
Yeah.
You know, for me, it's touching a little bit too, because I didn't even know till later in life that he was actually Puerto Rican. You know what I mean? I didn't know that until later.
Oh, okay.
I thought he was just a light-skinned black dude, to be real with you.
But that just shows, once again, I've said this time and time again, there are black people in Puerto Rico.
Dude,
you know what I'm
facts,
saying?
bro. You have to learn how to identify, learn your history for real.
Yeah, people sleep on that, man.
Hell yeah. But yo, Prince Marky D and the Fat Boys, I got to give them a shout out for a minute because, yo, those dudes for me were the epitome of like a crossover they were gimmicky.
Yeah.
But they were the first dudes that also started showing the segue into being able to get that Hollywood money.
Yeah.
Don't forget Disorderlies came out during that time.
That movie was a classic.
You know what I'm saying,
that was a
though?
classic.
And that's why that's what I'm saying, though.
I almost forgot about that.
That's what I'm saying.
I've seen that movie at least 15, 20
Me
times.
too. I watched that movie a lot.
I did too.
You just didn't remember it because it slipped your mind.
Holy shit. Because I'm sitting over here thinking about Crush Groove.
Yeah.
Yes, no.
And you brought out Disorderlies.
Disorderlies,
Holy
bro.
Shit,
That's what I'm saying. So they showed that there was another way to get that money.
And they also showed it didn't have to be all hardcore.
It wasn't
had
hardcore. They were
fun.
humor.
They were having fun. You know what I mean? They were having fun behind the
They were having a lot of fun.
Those dudes was funny in that movie, by the way.
movie's
If
hilarious.
you're a hip hop head and you haven't seen Disorderlies,
That's classic.
Then you're not a hip hop head.
yeah, please look that shit up, man, because it's definitely something to.
So who would you go with, Conway?
So
80s hip hop.
So when Ryan just said Public Enemy, I just thought back to the amount of times I've listened to Fear of a Black Planet. It takes a nation of millions to hold us back.
Yep.
And what was the other album? Fuck. I'm blanking right now on the
It's
other
about
album.
Vini because you usually don't do
Yeah,
that.
Why are you thinking? I have to admit something. I was not a big Public Enemy fan.
Wow.
I was not a big Public Enemy. I guess I was in a different space at that time. Like what they was talking about, I guess my mind wasn't ready for that. I was just like, yeah, but I want to hear some lyrics that's talking about killing somebody. And like
Nah, but-
I wasn't hear this. I'm talking about some chicks like you bagging some girls. Like
Yeah, but
I don't want to hear this revolutionary crap.
I
But
feel
as I
you.
got older, I started to appreciate. I'm like, wow, they were monumental. Definitely. I wasn't a big Public Enemy fan though.
Like just like Fight the Power obviously is like their most famous song.
Yeah, I mean,
whatever.
you had to love that.
Yeah,
song. Like,
but
Radio suckers never play me.
911 is a joke.
Yes.
Was fucking classic. Don't Believe the Hype.
Yeah.
Fucking
That was-
classic.
Yo,
like
Chuck D
I
was,
love their singles.
but
It's just when I started listening to the albums, they started losing me. I was just like,
like Chuck D to me, and this may be a reach for some because I know he's still part of the same era as like Rakim, but Chuck D for me was like a happy blend between a Rakim and a Nas because he knew how to tell
I could see
stories.
that. I could see that.
You understand?
Yeah, I can see
Definitely.
that.
But he had this real edge to him where he was not fucking afraid to stand up for what he felt was right. And
facts.
they brought it to the light every video, every album, and they stayed consistent.
They were definitely consistent.
So I'm gonna mention a name that we have not mentioned, but considering his ego, he probably holds himself as the greatest rapper of that era, or probably greatest rapper of all time. And coincidentally, he actually had, even though he's not my favorite rapper of the era, he had my favorite song of the era, and that's Mr. Chris Parker, aka KRS-One.
Yo, big ups to BX, and KRS is
And that song,
he's a legend, man.
The Bridge is Over.
Definitely a legend.
He
Bridge is
murdered.
Yo, he destroyed all of Queens with that song.
He did.
And what I did not know until I was watching that hip hop documentary on Netflix, I didn't realize, because we were kids, you know what I'm saying? I didn't realize. I'm thinking he was that brash and that boastful because he had been in the game for a little while.
Nope.
Yo, that was like his second
Yes,
song.
it was.
Really?
Yeah,
South
bro.
Bronx was like his first song.
I saw that shit on that documentary too. I didn't know that either.
Wow, I didn't know that.
This motherfucker was living in a homeless shelter.
Yeah, bro.
And then,
Get out of here.
and
There's
then,
a huge story to him with that.
and then
gotta watch
came out and heard MC Shan and them talking about how hip hop is Queens is and he was like, man, fuck these motherfuckers.
Wow.
And then I'm like, yo, you live in a homeless shelter, my dude. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just came out mad bold.
He had
But-
nothing to lose.
Exactly.
And that's usually the mentality of a Bronx
Yeah.
dude anyway, though.
Yeah.
Bronx women too.
I just gained some respect for him for that. I
Yo.
didn't know that. Wow.
Dude, yeah, no, like he said, his first 2 or 3 songs were literally the songs you still remember him for.
Yeah. Like, out the bat.
In
Like,
a homeless
out
shelter.
the gate. So, South Bronx, I think, was like his first song. And then Queens came back or whatever. And then he was like, okay, I'm going to Ether, y'all guys. Before there was Ether,
Yeah.
there was The Bridge is Over.
Giselle.
Yo,
That easily was my favorite song of the era, even though he wasn't my favorite rapper. So going back to your question about who's my favorite rapper of that era, I got to side with Malik, with Rakim. And here's why. Before Rakim, we had people like LL came out before Rakim, Run DMC came out before Rakim,
yeah, but you said guys like Kumo D.
Kumo D and
Yeah.
them, yeah,
Big
KRS-One.
Daddy Kane.
Yeah. So Kane, I want to say it was around the same time as Rakim.
Yeah, that was right there.
Yeah.
Those two ushered in motherfuckers stepping their lyrical game up.
You had to.
That's why I love them
You
both.
didn't have Nas, Wu-Tang, Redman. None of those dudes would have existed if you go back and listen to Paid in Full. Lyrically, Rakim is spitting shit that's better than like 95% of the dudes right now.
No, it's true.
And that was like 87.
Yeah.
Think about that for a hot second. We're talking about dudes that you're here, that you're listening to now or hear now on the radio, weren't born until like the year 2000, 2001, and 15 years prior to that, somebody was spitting bars harder and better
Facts.
than the best thing that they could ever come up with in their life.
It's funny. I equate. There would be no Nas without Rakim. But listen to this.
Yeah.
There would be no Jay-Z without Big Daddy Kane. Think about styles.
Yeah.
Big Daddy Kane's style.
So
that was
there
all
was-
Jay, especially when Jay first came out.
There
He
was a-
spitting that was all Big Daddy Kane.
So
right there.
if you're a hip hop head and you're a vinyl head, there was a song that was in between the era of like the late 80s, early 90s called In the PJs. And it was a live recording done with Big Daddy Kane, Jazzo, Jay-Z,
Yeah, I
and a
heard
couple of other
I
artists.
heard that on the documentary. Yep.
I own that vinyl still till today. I actually have 3 of those cuts. You heard Jay rhyming like Jazzo back in the day when Kane
Yeah.
was flipping.
Yeah.
So to prove that point, if anyone looks that song up, it's called In the PJs. You can probably YouTube it or some shit. You'll hear how Kane was flowing, and you will hear how Jay was originally flowing.
Yeah. I mean, they're both Brooklyn dudes.
No, facts, hands down.
So I'm sure, like, all Brooklyn dudes looked up to Kane.
Yeah, they looked up to Kane.
They did, but Jay looked up to Jazzo at the time, which is why he took some of his shit right away. But I think when he did get closer to Kane, like when they started recording around each other,
Yeah.
I think that's when Jay was just like, yo, you know what? This dude's on to something. I could actually flip that in a different way.
Yeah.
So I got a question for y'all. If you had to tag one song from the hip hop era in the 80s, one song that stood out amongst all of them, what would it be?
The Message.
Okay, you went to the original.
The original. That's what
Okay.
started it.
Okay.
That's what started
That's
it.
like early
Broken
80s.
glass everywhere.
So that was such an impactful song.
it definitely was.
No, it really was.
I'm not gonna take anything away from that. Like that was like one of the first songs where it's like, okay, yeah, we can party, yeah, we can have a good time.
Let me tell you
but
about what's going on.
Let's talk about what's going on in the hood.
Yeah, man.
Let's talk about how these cops are treating us. Let's talk about how the government is pretty much ignoring us. Let's talk about our environment and what we're growing up in and the shit that we have to see day in, day out. So it was such an impactful
Do you remember that video? Like
Yeah,
the
I remember.
background of
Oh yeah,
what the-
it was the Bronx.
It was the Bronx, abandoned buildings,
Burnt down buildings.
down. Like it was crazy.
Like you
man.
said, broken glass everywhere.
Yeah.
So like
people pissing on the floors, man. They just don't care.
people who didn't grow up in New York, specifically in the Bronx,
It was
in the
horrible
80s.
during that time.
Like, and that's why we say there was sadness, there was the bad, but there was such beauty that came out of it.
Yeah, man.
New York was fucked up in the 80s.
Yo, especially in the Bronx, it really was bad.
With Reaganomics and everything, like it was horrible in terms of the environment. But through that came such amazing music. And to answer your question, Ryan, I'm glad you asked this. And it's gonna be a song that you're gonna be like, really? Okay. Because I don't know why it resonated with me, and maybe it just shows like my personality, and this speaks to something else I'm gonna talk about later in the last call. But Top Billin' by Audio 2.
Yo,
So that was the first rap song I ever memorized.
Okay.
yo.
And that's when I was like, yo, I'm a hip hop head. And I was like 8 years old when that
I
song
saw
came
them
out.
live.
You saw Audio 2 live?
Yes.
Where?
At the Fever.
Say word.
I never forget. My boy's father had a Volt van. I don't even know if they freaking even made those past the 90s. And we all piled in, and my boy at the time was a rapper during that era. But what was funny is the rap groups back in the day and during that era too, yo, they had to dance too though.
Oh, you had to.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and yo,
I saw Kane at BB King's before they shut that down.
was dancing, right?
Still dancing.
You have to, it was a part.
With Scoob and Scrap. Shout out
See?
Scoob and Scrap.
Scoob and Scrap.
Yo, but if you remember the 80s, man, like everything, there was like a notion behind it where like battles in the clubs weren't even fought with fists. It was fought out
Dancing.
dancing.
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle. We talked about.
But you had that movie, I don't know if you
It was,
remember.
Cedric too.
Yeah,
Cedric was talking about
Cedric
that.
did talk about that.
definitely.
Do you guys remember the movie called Flashdance?
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Now, there was
Jennifer Beals.
Yeah, so then there was another spin-off of that was like a Fame type of thing. It was called Fast Forward. You don't remember that one.
I gotta look that up.
And
No,
that one
I
had
don't.
some of the same characters in it from Fame.
Okay.
And there was a lot of actual stars in there that were later on, like, what was the Spanish dude that came out in New York Undercover that was also a dancer, Michael Jackson?
Michael De Lorenzo.
De Lorenzo.
Yeah.
He was in that movie as well, too.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Okay, I've never
So,
seen
like,
it. But
it just shows you, though, just the edge on that. But, yo, top billing, that I have to agree with. That's a hard one for me to choose from. Like, Malik's went to the core, but, like, your pick went to me what the epitome of hip-hop was going to.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, that's the song that 50 Cent song, I Get Money.
I Get Money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it sampled
Money,
that
Yeah.
song. When he
MC
said,
and my people call me Milk.
when I'm busting up a body, I feel no guilt.
Yeah, look at that. It's
MC's
hardcore.
cutting. Yeah. So at the point where I get money.
Money,
I get,
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. I get money. Money I got.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's what 50 sampled. So it was that song. And I'm not even a big 50 fan. When that song came out,
That was hard.
I was like, oh, 50 got the summer.
Yes, he did.
50 had the summer right there.
Just with
that
that.
song.
And then they did the remix with
with
three
Puff.
the hard way. So,
Yeah, man.
but yo, two dope choices. I think I honestly felt that I had one, but I think your point literally trumped my idea.
So I'm curious about yours, though. You got to still say it. Like,
For me personally, I was a real big fan of Run DMC,
okay.
and their Tougher Than Leather album, Tougher Than Leather itself, like that song itself, like
Oh, that's okay.
yeah.
Okay. I thought you were gonna go with Rockbox, but okay.
No, just because. Remember, we're talking about this is about 1986, 87. There wasn't a lot of visuals for us to have. We didn't have
there wasn't.
computers.
No.
And like back in the day, in the 80s, like if you missed your TV show, you missed it for life.
No, it was a rap.
You were never seeing that show again. So we didn't have a lot of visuals. But that album cover of Tougher Than Leather with Run DMC on it, so three of them with a far shot. They all got their Adidas suit. You could see them full body from a distance.
With their fedoras on.
Yes, with the fedoras on. It was just something about that album and how those guys collaborated. I couldn't really pick one song off the album because, to be honest with you, I think I've said this to y'all before. I didn't grow up a hip hop head in the 80s.
Yeah.
I grew up a rock
He
head.
was a rock
Yeah.
dude, I know.
But Tougher Than Leather was the album that segued it for me, along with songs like Top Billin'. That's why when you said it,
Yeah.
it caught me. You know, so I mean,
Because it kind of blended the genre
It did.
somewhat.
It kinda did, man.
Yeah, I can see that.
and then the early 90s started panning in right away with groups like, you know, Nice and Smooth and shit like that. And then
man.
Dwick came out, you know what I mean? So that's when hip hop started just
getting
going.
fun.
It started getting,
Fun.
yeah.
Which is probably my favorite song in the early 90s.
Dude, mine, right, that is mine. That's why I named it right there.
Anytime that song comes on, I'm stopping.
Yo, that shit is fire.
Yeah, definitely. So I got to tell y'all a story real quick. Early. So we're talking about 80s hip hop, and people think hip hop, they think the 80s in terms of like the genesis of it, when in reality, it was actually the late 70s. So people.
Who you gonna go with? Because I got something for that too.
So it's a real quick story. So the genesis of hip hop actually started in the late 70s with block parties, where the DJ so any light post that you see, there's a panel.
yeah,
on
we
the-
used to bust
on
that
the
open
base.
and just
Exactly.
take the electric feed,
Take the juice.
put a little pigtail on it, and
Exactly.
then you plug out your systems.
And those were the block parties in the Bronx.
Yeah.
Cedric
So
Ave.
exactly. So
Shit.
speaking of such, there was a dude named Kool Herc. So at the time, so my pops, at the time he was helping. So there was a woman that ran Claremont Community Center. Claremont Community Center is on East 169 between 3rd Ave and Washington Ave, right near Morris Projects, where I partially grew up. So my pops used to help the woman run the community center. He used to, so they had a gym. He would referee basketball games there. My
Nice.
pops was a ball player back in the day. So there was also like a community room. obviously community center, community room, and people all the time, little like neighborhood parties, the community room in the community center.
That's what you rented out.
Exactly. So there was this dude, big diesel dude, light-skinned diesel dude with dreads, that came up to my pops and was like, yo, I want to rent this room out for this party. So he was like, all right, cool, So because he helped run the community center, he was kind of like the chaperone, you know what I'm saying? So my pops is born in 46. So at the time, he's in his 30s. So Kool Herc and them, they're all like teenagers, early 20s or whatever. So my pops is there. He's, making sure everything's cool with the party, whatever. Keep in mind, this is late 70s in
It's
South,
a lot of shit going on.
in the South Boogie. So he's like, making sure everything goes okay. So he's sitting there watching the party and listening to this music that he's never heard before. And he's like, yo, what the fuck?
What is this shit?
What is this? And that was Kool Herc, and that was hip hop, and that was like the genesis of hip hop. My pops saw it
Live,
and didn't know what the hell he was watching.
no cell phone, no YouTube.
Exactly, but he knew like whatever's going on here, people are feeling it, and that was the energy.
But for you to even hear that story means that it resonated with him so much that he told it.
Yeah.
Never forget that.
So here's how that story came up. In Crotona Park, which is a park in the South Bronx, there's something called Old Timers Day.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they still have it.
Yeah, they still do it.
I think they do.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I think all the rituals in the Bronx with Old Timers Day, they still do.
Yeah.
So it was the first Sunday of August in Crotona Park. So this is like maybe 97, 98. I was home for the summer from college or whatever, and I met Kool Herc. He was there. And my pops came up to him, they were talking or whatever. My pops reminded him of that party.
That party.
Wow.
And he was like, wow, you were there? He was like, yeah, I was the dude.
I was the one that got you in there.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So as I'm listening to them talk or whatever, I was like, yo, what were you talking about? And he told me the story. And I was like, yo, that is the coolest story fucking ever.
Of course.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, and because I'm such a hip hop head, it was such a cool story to hear in terms of, and that's why I'm so proud, like that I was born in the Bronx and partially raised in the Bronx because I'm such a hip hop head. Anytime I see, and it doesn't matter where the rapper's from. You got rappers like out of London right now.
Oh yeah, some of them are dope though.
man.
They
You
dope
got
as hell.
Japan.
you got breakdancing out in Japan and,
Yeah.
and Korea.
Yeah.
And it's like when I see that, and I'm like,
Shit, the Middle East, man.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I see that shit, and I'm like, it all started in my borough.
Yeah,
Sir.
that,
And
if
it's
it wasn't
so-
for the Bronx, this rap shit probably wouldn't be going on.
Exactly.
It's a fact there, man.
Exactly. And that's why, like, when you talk about the 80s and we talk about 80s babies,
Pay homage, like Fat Joe used to say, man.
man.
You got to pay homage to the Bronx and to the pioneers that trendsetted this whole generation of or genre of music that has just grown into its own thing now. But if it wasn't for the originators, it wouldn't be here.
exactly.
At all.
Exactly.
And all those jokes about the Bronx, because obviously Bronx is known for being wild and a little crazy.
Charlemagne being the main dude cracking jokes.
Cracking
He
jokes.
stayed doing that.
But you're on a hip hop station, my dude.
Yes.
Yeah, wake up.
Respect.
And guess what?
Respect.
There wouldn't be no hip hop station if it wasn't for the BX Borough.
Yes, sir.
So, like Fat Joe said, pay homage, my
Pay
dude.
homage.
And on that note, it's a wrap for this episode. We appreciate you joining us on this journey. This season, as previously said, you can find us on One Institution Media's platform as we have officially joined the OIM family. You can also still hit us up on our social media pages, including Instagram at SNA Live Podcast. We're also on Twitter, we're on Twitch, we're on Facebook. Hit us up with your questions and feedback. And in the words of Shirley Chisholm, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. We out.
Peace.
You have just tuned into The Last Call on the SNA Live podcast.
And we're back for our bonus material that we call Last Call. So before we get into our topic, because it's Last Call, we obviously have to top off our drinks with this 12-year Double Wood Balvenie. And with that being said, let's do it.
And it's a good time too, Conway, like how we started our segments off. I realized it started to become a trend with us. It's a good time for us to also chime in real quick on where your cigars have developed to. So, I mean, Leak, you just relit yours. So I mean, how's the experience been?
Enjoying it as usual. That creamy.
That's good, bro. Thank you.
Creamy, chocolatey taste is definitely hitting, and it's going so well with this Balvenie.
It hit though. You felt the change?
Oh, definitely felt the change. Definitely. The pepper is subsided.
I was about to ask
the
that.
pepper was it's.
So was it more
prominent
like
in the beginning?
Front third.
Yeah, in the beginning, it's definitely more prominent in the beginning. Then it just starts to mellow out towards the end, and it just gets to a creamy, chocolatey taste.
Okay.
So like I said in the first portion of this episode, the Caldwell Bad Mofo cigar that I'm smoking is supposed to have a hint of black pepper, and it does. Now, I generally like more Nicaraguan cigars than Dominican because I don't like the overpowering pepperiness of Dominican cigars. But this has just the right blend. It's so perfect because remember, also it was milk chocolate. It was also that leathery finish, and it was also that oak that was like the.
So are you picking that up now? Because I mean, especially drinking the double wood, I would think that the oak would start to come out somewhere.
Yo, it blends so perfectly.
And the leather, actually.
And the one mistake I made, I'll say this. I probably should not have smoked this the first time while I'm drinking the scotch.
So you could have enjoyed
Appreciate
it just
it a
on a
little
clean
bit more.
palate.
Exactly. But I will say this, and Balvenie does this with a lot of cigars. It enhances it
Yeah, I don't know too many that it
so
does.
beautifully.
Yeah.
So beautifully. So this is definitely not going to be my last time smoking this cigar. And remember, Long Live the King was one of my favorite cigars. I put that in my little photo gallery. I make a point to take pictures of all the cigars that I love, because what ends up happening is you're in a cigar lounge, you're drinking, you're having a good time, you have an amazing cigar. 2-3 weeks down the line, you're like, wait a minute, what was that cigar I smoked again?
And keeping the band don't help. Like
No.
people are like, I'm just gonna hold this in my pocket. You're
Nah,
gonna
you
throw
lose-
that
you
out.
lose it. You
You're
lose
gonna
it.
wash your pants.
Exactly.
It's gonna get done.
I
Like
tried that, bro.
you got to keep some kind of digital record, man.
Exactly, which is why
So-
I did that.
So for any new smokers out there, if you're not a cigar smoker but you're listening to us, that advice Conway just gave you, definitely do that. Take pictures or
Do it with your spirits too.
put it in your notes and just and go through your experience. How did what flavors you were experiencing? Was it strong? Was it mild? Put the notes. That's gonna help you. As you further.
And
on.
before you develop a palate, because in the beginning it's hard for you to try to distinguish what flavors are what. At least start taking notes on how the construction was. Did it light well? Did it burn well? Did it overheat? Did it get pungent on you because it overheated? Like those are things you could start doing to start learning the dialect to how to talk and understand.
And after a while, you'll know what you like. 'Cause, again, the flavors, you're not gonna pick up on the flavor. I know, at least I did in the beginning. I would just say creamy and tobacco type. Tobacco like that was it.
Yeah.
As you start going, you're gonna find your profile and what you like. So just
And
definitely
you'll
take
pick up
notes.
on you'll pick up on the nuances.
Yeah, definitely.
So I will say this Pachardo has opened up as it's gone through. Again,
It's a medium, right?
it's definitely a medium smoke, but the retrohale is crazy.
I love retro hell.
So for those that don't know what retrohaling is, remember, if you ever do smoke a cigar, if you never smoked one, you do not inhale cigars.
Please don't.
If you do, the
You're never
body's
gonna
gonna hit the
smoke
floor.
it. You're never gonna smoke it.
You're gonna go down if you're drinking too.
Down
Down goes Frazier. Yeah, for real. So retrohale though is it's a technique where you can transfer the smoke from your mouth and exhale it through your nose without actually inhaling
I'll
the
do it on
smoke.
camera, 'cause I'm a
Malik
big
will
retrohale.
actually, as I'm talking about it, he'll demonstrate exactly what a retrohale is. So you see, he took the smoke in, he drew it in, and then he blew it out through his nose, but he did not inhale.
Nope.
That's what retrohaling does, and what that does is it opens up the back end of your palate, because when your smoke is blown out through your nose, everything just enhances. Your tongue is able now to pick up on more things that you weren't able to pick up on before. So retrohaling is a good way to dictate real flavor balance of a cigar, and you can actually pick up the notes a little stronger when you retrohale.
Definitely.
So when I retrohaled on the first third of this cigar, it was a little much. It was strong. And remember, I gave you the backdrop. There's a lot of fillers in here from a lot of regions in Nicaragua.
Yeah.
Jalapa is one of my favorites.
Which is rich. That's
Yes,
rich.
you're gonna get that volcanic, soil in there. So now that I'm working on the back end, it's softened up, and it's more of a mellower retrohale, and you could start tasting all the natural essences of the tobacco, and it's just a great experience. So I hope we taught you guys a little something on retrohaling.
Yes, sir.
And you'll learn your regions, like Malik said, you'll learn your palate as well. So once you start finding regions and You'll start naming rappers and stuff. I don't mean rappers, but I mean rappers and cigars.
Yeah.
You'll start understanding the things that you like and the stuff that you don't like.
Definitely. Before we get to the topic, we have to cheers.
Last call.
Last call, baby. Okay, here's to many more, fellas. Salute.
So our bonus topic for last call is the WWF.
Yo, without this shit in the 80s, I don't know what we would have had.
What we did our childhood, what we been doing?
It was this and American Gladiator.
Yes, exactly.
So we needed this. And this was like soap operas for us.
Hell yeah. So speaking of soap operas, so I remember to this day, so the WWF had something called Saturday Night's Main Event.
Oh yeah.
The thing about Saturday Night's Main Event, it was at night, and it started like, I want to say like 10, 11 o'clock at night.
It was late.
So much like I am now, much like we all are, we're night owls. But I was a kid, so me and my brother, we were big wrestling fans. My brother's 2.5 years younger than me, and we would try to stay up and watch it. My brother would fall asleep almost every single time. And my pops, you know, I'm like my father. I'm a night owl. He's a night owl. So I remember watching Saturday Night's Main Event. I'm mad amped. Like, yeah, I can't watch, wait to watch this. I'm sitting in the living room. My pops comes in and verbatim, this is what he says to me. Keep in mind, I can't be older than 8 or 9 years old.
Okay, yeah. So this is at the prime of you enjoying what you're watching.
Yo, my pops walked in and was like, "What you watching?" I was like, "Oh, your dad, it's WWF. It's Saturday Night's Main Event. Like, such and such is fighting such and such." And he was like, "Oh, okay. You know the shit is fake, right?" And I was like, "What?" And he was like,
Yo,
"Yeah,
that's bad.
This shit is fake." And I'm like, "Yo,
what does that do to an 8-year-old kid?" And it's your dad saying it. It's not like it's your older brother or like a stupid cousin.
No.
Like your dad says that. And then you're like,
It's Bible now.
why would you ruin that for me? I'm a kid." I'm like, and you saw the excitement in my face
I
and
know.
in my
He
voice.
just didn't want to see. He didn't want you to believe in
I can
something.
imagine
I
what
guess.
your face looked like after you said that. You were just like,
I was just like, wait, what? But
So,
then as you get older, you start to realize if I throw you against a rope, why would you bounce and then come back to me?
So
For
here's
me
the deal.
to like clothesline
So,
you
yeah.
or suplex you.
So here's the deal. Real talk, it's true when you break it down like that. But look, the beautiful part about WWE is, look, and I will say this, and I'm a big sports head, as we all are, sitting at this table. But I will say this, I don't think wrestlers get the same respect as other athletes do. I think that they go through more
Yeah.
than what any other athlete goes through because the scripts are fake.
Yeah.
But jumping off of a ladder 20 feet in the air onto somebody to break 3 tables,
It's not fake.
that's not fake. They're feeling that.
Take
So
that.
what I realized as I got older was it's choreographed,
Yes, it is.
but it's real.
Yeah, and that's the way to keep it controlled, though. And that's how we have main events. That's how we have, it's what it is. But the athletes are still phenomenal athletes.
And that's the right word. They're athletes.
They really are.
Let me ask you this: how many of y'all have scratches or bruises from you playing with your friends, trying to imitate the moves? Of
So-
I mean, I have a younger brother. So
No,
we
you
were, like,
know what was the worst? So
Oh my
the
God.
worst thing for me that ever happened was when the WWF at the time, when you were available to buy, because I used to get the magazine sent to my house.
Yeah.
So I used to have, I think I still have a couple in that. Remember I told you guys I have like a big container, a bunch of joints.
Yeah.
That'll be released to something else later on.
Yes, sir.
Give you guys. But I remember the first time seeing the opportunity to buy your own WWF championship belt. It was this little styrofoam joint with an old play joint.
I had one.
All right, so for me on my block, and my build in particular, with my friends, we were all on the same age. A couple of guys were about 2 years older than me, but we were still in the same. They would literally be junkyard battles outside, battle royales for this belt. And we would use the hedges as like the ring. So you have the grass area, the little, you thought it was grass. I mean, it was just mostly dirt and rocks. But, you're playing in this, and we would fight for that fucking belt.
That's crazy.
That belt was the worst thing that ever happened.
I used to do it in my bedroom. I had the bunk beds. I used to on
Yes.
top of the bunk beds. Boo.
The only problem with that, I don't know about y'all, growing up in a Spanish family and shit, when we used to wrestle like that, you know somebody's mom was coming through the door.
Yeah, definitely.
And they was fucking everybody up because everybody.
The fuck are y'all doing
because
in here?
but I realized this later. Yo, everybody was so fucked up in the house. Nobody wanted to drive a kid to the hospital. That's why they were like, yo, get the fuck, yo, stop playing around.
Take this Benadryl.
Yo, they don't even know about that.
Benadryls for everything.
Here, have some night-night juice. Yo, it was the 80s, I'm being real.
Robitussin.
Robitussin too.
What, you got a sprain?
Tussin. Give him some Tussin.
Tussin. Get your ass to bed. But listen, I'm gonna throw a little spin on this last call segment. So what I'm gonna do here right now is I'm gonna give you guys a bunch of names, right? And off those names, I'm gonna come back and ask a couple of questions. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set the landscape for you, right? So when we talk about 80s WWF, we're talking about Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
We're talking about Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
We're talking about Randy Macho Man Savage. We're talking about Rowdy Roddy Piper. We're talking about Jake the Robert Snake. We're talking about Ricky the Steamboat Dragon.
Yeah.
Bret the Hitman Hart. Mr. Perfect.
Yeah.
The Junkyard Dog.
Yeah.
Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man.
Yeah.
Ravishing Rick Rude. Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Oh.
Yeah, the Rick Rude joint, yo. He was the best with that shit. We have Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
Yeah.
King Kong Bundy. Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Yeah.
The beginning of The Undertaker. He just retired this year, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Iron Sheik, Shawn Michaels, the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
So you guys get the idea now of your wrestling heads.
Yeah.
I gotta ask you guys 3 different questions. Okay? First one is gonna be a very difficult one. Who are your top 3 best champions?
Champions. That's a very good question. So, all right, I'm gonna start it off.
And mind you, this was off script, so we have no idea what's going on here, guys.
Yeah.
And we do that a lot to each other because we try to keep things, original.
Keep it fresh. All right, so I'm gonna go with. And it's the first one's
No
gonna be
order. I won't take
Yeah.
order. I'll just take 3.
It's not even in order. Like the first one is the most obvious one, and that's Hulk Hogan. And the reason for that is because Hulk Hogan transcended wrestling. You did not
slam.
have to be. Yeah,
Slam heard around the world.
You did not have to be a wrestling fan to know who Hulk Hogan was. Before The Rock, Rock became a movie star, like a legit movie star. Hulk Hogan was doing movies.
No holds barred.
No holds barred.
No holds barred.
That was a classic.
It was a classic movie.
Shout out to Zeus at the same time.
AKA Debo.
Debo.
Before he was Debo, he was Zeus.
Yeah, kid.
So
Punching his pecs.
that's number 1. Number 2, because keep in mind, it wasn't just the heavyweight champion. It was
I said champs, so you could go into continental.
tag team.
Tag team.
Well, no. So I want you to stay singular because
Singular,
tag team is later.
All right. So it's the singular. All right. So Hulk Hogan's number 1. Number 2 is probably Ultimate Warrior, and the reason for that is because I think more so, not more so, but almost equal to in terms of wrestling. He didn't transcend wrestling like Hulk Hogan did.
Because he had no real verbal
No,
personality.
he didn't. But the performance,
His energy,
was insane.
the place would blow up.
He didn't walk down the aisle.
Dun, 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 dun,
He
dun, dun.
ran down the motherfucking
Full
aisle.
speed.
Full speed.
And he never fell.
Like
Not
he
once.
just got shot out of a cannon. Ran into the ring, shook the ropes, and just did all types of crazy shit. And like, you want to talk about somebody that was probably roided up?
Oh no, he was definitely. That was
Like
Definitely.
that was a part of why he passed early.
Yeah. So I would have him as probably number 2.
Ultimate Warrior was more of an intercontinental champion more than a heavyweight. Do you remember when he won the heavyweight championship?
He beat Andre. Was it Andre?
Nope.
No. Was it WrestleMania?
Nope, it was SummerSlam.
SummerSlam. That's what it was. Yeah.
It was SummerSlam.
Yeah.
I never forget, there was this little shitty ass restaurant on the corner of Kingsbridge and Jerome called the Green Pepper. It don't exist no more.
Green pepper.
It was a straight Spanish restaurant, and my dad thought it was the best thing in the world. Yo, I'm gonna take you to watch SummerSlam over there because that's where they're showing it. We go into this shitty ass Dominican restaurant. Booze is flowing. I didn't give a shit. I was the only kid in there watching it. I didn't give a fuck because I was watching it. So, Ultimate Warrior beat Hulk Hogan for the WWF Championship. That was a monumental moment.
It was a transition.
Yes.
Because he was the next star.
I just got a flashback right now because I do remember that.
That was-
Now you remember it, right?
That was the next star, definitely. So the next person I'm gonna mention was almost as transcendent a star as Hulk Hogan. And correct me if I'm wrong if he didn't win the belt, but I'm almost sure at one point he did. Because he was a good guy first, and he went to a bad guy.
So they're called heels and heroes and heels.
Heroes and heels. He was a hero at first, and then became a heel.
Oh, I'm sorry. Faces and heels.
Okay.
That's
so he was a face at first, and then became a heel under Bobby the Brain Heenan. That was Andre the Giant.
Yes, he was a champ.
Andre the Giant was a mammoth. This dude was... What they listed him as and what he actually was probably two different things.
The same way they do athletes still today.
Mm-hmm. But listed as 7 feet, 500 pounds.
Yeah, I think it was bigger than that.
And considering his size, so I watched the documentary.
I was about to say that. Did you see it? Because the documentary shows the troublesome side of him being a man of that size during that time frame, especially.
He loved
the trouble, man.
So he was French. So he loved his wine, but he also loved his beer.
Yo, bro, kegs.
He used to wrestle on like 10 fucking...
Yeah. So there was a shot of him holding a beer can, and it looked like he was holding a thimble. It was insane. Like the size of his hands were insane. And Hulk Hogan, I want to say this was WrestleMania, not SummerSlam. Body Slam.
Yeah, so that was the slam heard around the world.
So
that's when Hogan beat him for the chip.
But watching an interview years later,
you heard what happened to Hogan.
Yeah, he was fucked up.
No, he tore his pec.
Yeah,
he tore his pec. He tore his lats.
Yeah,
everything.
Everything ripped in one motion when he picked that man up. But he made it.
You saw him. He fell after he did it.
He finished. He finished.
But he did it.
Yeah,
he did it.
And he still went through with the finish at the end with his crying and when Hogan won, like you felt like you won.
Yeah,
he's on the
tearing.
ropes. He's on the ropes, and you felt it with him. He was a great showsman.
Yeah,
so we got Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Andre the Giant. What about you, Malik?
So my number one, that's why I stayed quiet when you started talking about Ultimate Warrior. I was a freaking Ultimate Warrior groupie, dude.
Yeah. Did you have the little tassels on your arms too, running around?
I'll tell you what. When he used to come out, I used to start from like the living room, my living room,
and you run through.
I would run through the room, and I'll come in the room and go in my bed and start shaking. Dude, I loved fucking Ultimate Warrior. His energy, like everything, like that was my dude. So that definitely Ultimate Warrior number one. Number two had to be Hulk Hogan. Like
you have to include him.
You gotta, Hulk was the man.
Hulk is the man, regardless of what his fucking
you know what's crazy?
Stances,
regardless of his
racism, yeah.
Waste males.
But I told you, I met him though.
Yeah,
and I'll tell you about it when I talk. But
So definitely Hulk Hogan. You know what's also is so corny, but you still had to love him. Do you realize he finished the same way? He had the same finish and shit. He would do the shit where you hit him and then he shake and then he and then he fucking throw you against the wall, and it ended at the same time.
But you knew once the throw off the rope was coming, you knew the leg drop was on its way.
Leg drop was on its motherfucking way.
And then he would stare. You give that little look, and then he goes off the rope, and the whole place would go wild with that bullshit.
Talk about soap operas. That was a straight soap opera.
Of course it was, but listen, you could call Vince McMahon a lot of names, but you cannot take away his genius. And he's still doing it till today. Mm-hmm. And he's taught his son and his daughter very well.
Yeah.
Because, shout out to Shane McMahon, too, because, he turned into a wrestler himself.
Okay.
He's actually known for one of the more monumental ones, more recent. About 4 or 5 years ago, he fought The Undertaker at WrestleMania. And he jumped off of the highest steel cage ever built. It was somewhere like along the lines of 50 feet in the air.
So let me ask you something. How the fuck old is The Undertaker that he's still wrestling?
So Undertaker just retired this past year in 2020. 55? He's up there. He's in his late 50s.
Yeah. You know what? You just mentioned steel cage and a flashback just hit. I have to change my answer. I am taking away Ultimate Warrior.
And who are you putting in?
Mr. Wonderful Paul motherfucking Orndorff.
Wow, bro.
Only off the strength of his motherfucking robes. His robes.
His robe game was serious.
Was blinged the fuck
His
out.
robe game was serious.
And I remember the steel cage. It was a blue.
Him and Ric Flair too.
Yeah, it was a blue steel cage, and whoever got out of the steel cage and touched the floor first was the winner.
Yeah.
And they jumped out at the same time.
Yeah.
And they did a replay in slow motion to see who touched the ground first.
I remember that.
And I'm like, it just hit me. I haven't thought about that in decades.
So,
holy shit.
Yeah, so steel cage matches though have evolved and gotten way more dangerous now.
Yeah.
Even though that those guys back in the day fought in real steel cages, and the blood that you did see was very real back then.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
Sometimes there was stuff that, and it still happens till today. Sometimes shit goes a little off script.
Yeah.
They get hit and they got to keep going. I've seen dudes leaking. So, big shout out again to these guys being these
Yeah, no,
amazing.
they were definitely savage.
So you changed yours, pour on off.
Yeah.
So
You
my
said yours
number
is-
3, and I know you guys will all agree with this because we talked about this, is Randy Savage.
Yeah.
Dude, his energy, like, as you can see, I have a trend here. Anybody with that energy,
Your
bro,
energy got you.
Oh, and then he always had the fly chick next to him. You know, he's like,
Yeah.
Miss Elizabeth.
Miss Elizabeth. Yeah, tell him talk to the people. Talk to the people. You know what I mean? Like he had that whole charisma, and like he went with the whole act. Like he was good. Come to find out, when you get older, you realize he was a freaking cokehead. But that's what made it even funnier.
Hey, listen,
yo.
but
That's
real
what made it even
talk,
funnier,
real talk,
dude.
coming out of the 80s and coming out of New York, you have to thank cocaine for your 1986 Mets and your 1986 Giants. So why not thank it for Randy Macho Man Savage?
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Yeah, facts. Super duper facts.
Just
Cocaine's
being
a hell of a
real.
drug.
Just being real. Just being real.
Yeah, so those are definitely my
Okay.
three. Honorable mention, Mr. Perfect and
Well, hold on.
Ravish and Rick Rude.
So all right, but those guys weren't champions.
No, they
like
weren't
that,
champions.
though.
They weren't champions.
So Mr. Perfect was, but I'll touch into that too. So for mine, you guys mentioned pretty much the similar, except though the chronological order for me was I have to put Ultimate Warrior number 3, Hogan number 2, and for me it was Randy Macho Man Savage. When Macho Man beat Hogan in WrestleMania for the chip, that shit was like
It was
epic.
big.
And
Was he crying?
They all were crying.
Yeah.
And Hogan was crying.
Yeah.
So Elizabeth was crying, of course.
of course.
But for me, though, it was more like the storyline felt more with the little guy, the underdog. Because, when Macho Man got him down and he ran to the corner and he was climbing up for the elbow drop, you knew once he landed it was over.
Yeah.
And he hit one, took home the title. So to touch on something else now, so that's our top 3 champions, singular champions, individual champions. I will say this, quick sub question: who is your most arrogant wrestler?
Mr. Perfect.
That's a very good question.
Mr. Perfect for me.
So,
I mean, I love him.
Yo, he didn't give
I
a shit.
love him.
He said whatever was on
You
his
know,
mind.
I still do I do the gum trick till today. Yo, if somebody would watch me chewing gum and spitting it out, I still hit it like him right now.
and for those, we're not even gonna describe what the gum trick means. Just YouTube it, so you know what this man is talking about.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, it's not the most arrogant, but it's for whatever reason it was the person that came to mind. That I'm gonna mention the name, and you might not even remember right off the bat. Adrian Adonis.
Of course, bro. But wow.
Do you remember that name?
I don't remember that.
Wow.
Shit.
So he had no business calling himself an Adonis.
Adonis. No. All right. So I see the angle you're going at right
this
now.
This
Okay.
motherfucker didn't look like he hit a gym a day in his life. There was no muscle definition. There was no six pack. There was a keg. There was no six pack.
I agree with that.
Like this, but you couldn't tell this motherfucker he wasn't pretty.
Wow.
No, that's funny as hell.
Right? Yeah. So Adrian Adonis.
That's great, man. Yeah, guys, that's a throwback. So you might have to YouTube that one.
What about you?
Me, hands down, Mr. Perfect comes to mind right away because I loved his arrogance. 'Cause everything is simply perfect. Yo, but for me, hands down, the $1 Million Man,
Oh, wow.
Ted DiBiase. That guy's face and his smile when he laughed. He was one of the first guys who created his own championship belt.
Yeah, the $1 Million belt.
The $1 Million belt.
Forgot about that.
To work out with.
And the arrogance that went a step further with me was he literally walked down the aisle with a servant.
So we got to talk about that.
Yeah.
Looking back on it,
Let's get into that. I know, Conway, you got something.
the WWF.
We'll go on a little segue because it's well deserved.
With their characters.
Yeah, we have to talk about it.
Because it was the 80s and people weren't as enlightened or as empowered in terms of like the
Especially the people of color weren't
Yeah.
powered
Yo.
with voices.
You want to talk about some of the most racist characters you've ever seen in your motherfucking life.
Okay, so you know what? Here we go.
That's
Top 3 most racist characters of WWF
I'll leave this
history.
for Conway because I know he paid attention.
Number 1.
No. Go backwards. I want
okay.
you guys go backwards.
Number 3, we're gonna go with Akeem, the African Dream.
Akeem. All right, so if anyone knows who Akeem is, he was a large white man dressed in a dashiki with the fucking hat on that was what, like at least 2 feet tall? The straight African garb.
Yeah.
He's a white man. And if you knew anything about wrestling history, Hakeem was also what, the one-man gang?
He was the one-man gang before he was Akeem.
Which was a rock star gangbanger type of dude.
With a mohawk and a jean vest.
Biker.
Yeah, with a jean vest.
Then he became Hakeem. All right, so we got Hakeem. So who comes in next?
Number 2 has to be Virgil.
Okay, so Virgil was the servant of Ted DiBiase, the guy I was just talking about before.
And I don't care what type of career you wanted to have in the WWF. And look, it's easy for me to say I was a kid, I wasn't a grown man. I don't know if this dude had child support payments. I don't know what was going on in his life.
Facts. You don't know where his life was.
But to play, this dude had a monkey suit on.
Yeah,
yes,
man,
he did.
That was so.
Yes, he did.
And when you say servant, let's talk about what it really was. This dude was a slave.
He was a slave. He was.
So it's like, yo.
He did anything that Ted DiBiase told him to.
But Ted DiBiase talked mad shit to him. Like, yo.
Well, that's my point. That's why I said that.
Name,
yes,
like, just
that's why he was the most arrogant.
So disrespectful. But the number 1.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Let's. Like I'm Jones from Police Academy. Another 80's throwback.
Kamala.
I knew that was coming, everybody. We knew that one was coming.
So, just the way they announced him from the deepest, darkest parts of Africa.
Yo, this dude came out with the shield and a mask
and
with the paint on his face.
He was scary as fuck.
Paint on his face.
With
his teeth even had like a paint in them.
Yeah, with a grass skirt. Not sounding African at all. Yeah, this motherfucker was like from Detroit or something like that. But it didn't matter. You were a kid, and you know what the fucked up part is? It's they demonized him as a bad guy because he. Keep in mind, this was a dark-skinned black man who was from quote unquote the deepest, darkest parts of Africa, and you just looked at him and was like, oh. He's evil.
Yeah,
and
you associated
the brainwashing.
He was never a face. He was always a heel.
Yeah, exactly. The brainwashing that went on, because he could have never been a face. Because once you say, well, first of all,
deepest, darkest parts.
First of all, him just being a dark skinned man in general, it's like, oh, he's dark skinned, so he's scary. He's a big dark skinned man, so he's scary. Looking back on it, he kind of looked like Rick Ross.
No, he did look a lot like Rick Ross. Not to diss Rick or nothing like that, or Kamala. Either way you want to look at it.
It's not even a
definitely
diss.
Need round 2 of that last call. Bartender, one more, please.
Not even a diss. Just matter of factly, it was just a heavy set, dark skin, big, short haircut, black man who had face paint, a spear, a shield. His teeth were like painted yellow or something like that.
Yeah, it was yellow. Yeah,
they were painted like how you would see the visual of the Aborigines, how they were showing everybody
with a grass skirt.
Yeah,
and I think his manager was Slickster, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was Slickster for a little while.
Another racist character.
Yes,
by the
it
way.
was.
And like the WWF was so good with the racism between Kamala, the Slickster, Mr. Fuji. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
All right, so what's crazy is that anyone that was... so I saw a documentary on Yokozuna. Mr. Fuji made his last comeback being the manager of Yokozuna. Now, Yokozuna was the character of a sumo wrestler.
Yeah.
What a lot of people don't know, though, he was a part of the Samoans who are a part of the whole rock tree. If you're still watching WWE of today, it's still the Usos and Roman Reigns. They all are from that bloodline. Tamia... what's the other big girl's name right now? I believe I can't remember her name. Nia Jax. They're all from the same family line. So Yokozuna was not Japanese at all. He was actually Samoan. But
they didn't care.
They didn't care. You know, he had the long hair, the dark skin, and Samoans, for the most part, do have the slanted eye features. So he fit the bill a little bit to the character. Yokozuna was another one like Andre Giant that went through a lot of shit. He went through a lot of mental shit too. But Mr. Fuji, I just had to mention that was his last resurgence, was actually representing Yokozuna. So we can touch on how entertaining the WWE, WWF has been, but there are big moments in it where there's been some real big racial instances. For me, more recent, which was I think the last card that was allowed to WWE, WWF, was when they brought out the character John Cena. Now, John Cena's a white man from Boston. White man. Yeah. And, he portrayed to be like this hip-hop guy. Yeah. He was actually stealing Mark Wahlberg's look. Yeah. Since they were from the same region as well, too. So, John Cena was just a very large version of Mark Wahlberg as Marky Mark from the Funky Bunch era. Yeah. There was a point in time where John Cena was he still is a big name. And Vince McMahon was trying to be cool. Yeah. And you guys could YouTube this because you can still find this. So he was talking to John Cena about his match, and as he's closing it off, he gives him a dap. A dap is our slang for a proper handshake for people who are from
around the way.
Around the way. Perfect way. Perfect segue into that. Thank you. So instead of him just giving him the dap, he gives him the dap and he's like, you know what I'm saying? My nigga.
Oh. No, he didn't say that.
Yes, he did. Y'all didn't know that?
No.
Oh, wait a minute. Y'all didn't know that either?
I haven't watched it in 20 years, bro.
Like I just said, everybody, you can YouTube this right now. Vince McMahon saying, my nigga, to John Cena. And it was such an awkward thing because I don't know if you guys know who Booker T was. Booker.
I know who that is.
So Booker was there, and Booker's face was just like...
Surprised he didn't slap the shit out of him.
Obviously, he got paid very well to be there for that position.
Yeah,
so again, they needed his character to be there because Booker was, at that time frame, he was that nigga for that era.
So
okay,
wasn't he the power of the tag team? The Harlem Heat.
He was part of Harlem Heat.
Yeah.
Yes, he was. Yeah. Okay. So do me a favor. Actually, when we're done, I'm gonna YouTube it for you guys so you guys can see it.
I gotta see this.
So that was their last card for me, where it was, because I haven't seen them do anything since then. I think the people below him, because nobody's above him, but I think the people below him were just like, hey,
you wild.
Yo, Vince,
but
fall back, my
But
dude.
what it did do is it drove up viewership.
Yeah.
Because Vince McMahon lives off of controversy, and that's just him. So
you do realize there was a meeting before that happened.
Sure. No, this was well talked about.
Where they said to themselves,
this is what you're going to say.
This is what we're going to say.
So they spoke about that. Vince McMahon went off script and did it on his own.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Because that's what Vince is.
Because he's Vince. He's
it's my shit. I do what I want.
I'm the boss.
It felt right. And listen, I watched Vince McMahon through the back end of things. He's a very, very wealthy white guy. We all know that, okay? If he's really cold-heartedly racist, I won't know. I don't think any of us will really know because we don't know him personally.
No.
But I will say this: he's a showmanship through and true, and he will do anything for the show.
Yeah, definitely.
So he definitely did that. So we have now took a moment to look at the top 3 most racist characters. We looked at the top 3 champs. I got a couple more for you guys. Yeah. Give me your top 3 tag teams.
So for me, I'm not going to go in order.
No, you don't have to.
So in no...
Only if you're certain.
I'm not certain about the order. So I'm just going to, as they pop in my head, I'm going to go with the Hart Foundation, Bret Hart, and Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
Jim the Anvil.
I'm going to go with Demolition.
Demolition, we're coming at you.
It was Axe and Smash, right?
Axe and Smash.
And then I'm gonna,
even though they were spin-offs of like Legion of Doom.
Yeah.
But that was WCW.
And then I'm gonna go with probably. Oh wow, I don't remember the name of the tag team, but I know they were tag team partners. Greg the Hammer Valentine and Brutus.
The Barber Beefcake.
Barber
Yeah.
Beefcake.
So they didn't have a real name.
They didn't, right?
No, they were just a tag
They
team.
just tagged up.
And they were a very successful
Yeah,
tag
they
team.
were good. They were good.
Yeah.
They actually really were. Wow, you threw me back with that
Because
tag team.
he wasn't Brutus the Barber yet. When he went solo, he became Brutus the Barber.
Brutus, yeah.
But before he was Brutus the Barber, it was Greg the Hammer Valentine and Brutus Beefcake.
Yeah.
First of all,
That name
the first,
is
yeah, exactly, Brutus Beefcake.
Do you remember how they dressed him?
No.
So Brutus used to come out with a bow tie on, with no shirt.
Oh yeah, I remember
and his
that.
tights.
Yeah, yeah.
And then sometimes he would wear like a cutoff vest or whatever, especially when he was Bruce the Barber Beefcake. Do y'all remember? I don't remember. I want to say it was Jake the Snake that did it. But do y'all remember when he got his face cut off? It was on Saturday morning. It was the first time I ever saw a censorship come up on wrestling ever, where they hated each other to a point where Jake the Snake came down, took his shears, and cut him in his head. You used his own shears against him, cut Brutus.
Buck 50.
Oh, I
Gave him a
forgot
buck
about
50.
And I remember just seeing it censored. It was just censored. You just see blood here, and you're like, what the
This is what we watched on Saturday morning.
Yeah. After we loaded up on sugar cereal.
Exactly.
Yep.
You know, we loaded up on sugar cereal for 3 hours.
Old school warrior.
Yeah, you're shaking that down, watching American Gladiator, and then we're watching WWE.
That's crazy.
So, WWF at the time.
So my three, they're one and the same, but Legion of Doom. I was freaking.
So you were a
I
Legion
was
fan. Yo, those guys are crazy.
They were freaking nuts.
That was Hawk and
Oh shit.
I can't remember their names.
Hawk and
Animal.
Animal. I knew it was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I was about
Hawk
to say Axe, but
and-
Axe
Legion
was
of
from
Doom was
Demolition.
crazy, and then Demolition second, which was I didn't real. Two, you just said that I didn't realize they were one and the same. But yeah, Demolition, and then three was the British Bulldogs.
Oh,
What
the
you remember about them?
Wow.
yo, dude, those were my
The
guys,
British
yo.
Bulldogs, like you
With
know, I'm a
Matilda.
dog lover.
They had Matilda.
Matilda, you know, I'm
Matilda
a
used to be
dog
the one
lover,
down
so
there.
I used to see, I'm like, yo, that shit is hot
Forgot
right there.
about. Well,
The
first
British
of all,
Bulldogs.
did they even talk with a British accent?
No, they
No,
didn't.
they weren't. They
No,
were actually
didn't.
related to Bret the Hitman
Yeah,
Hart.
they was. Yeah, this Bret the Hitman
So
Hart's cousin.
it was Davey Boy Smith and
Fuck, bro.
You remember names like crazy. I can't
Yeah, I
remember
know.
that name.
No, because that one I could feel. Damn.
I remember that name when you said it. The British.
I don't remember the
Bulldogs.
second guy's name, man. That one I don't remember. But wow, Lee,
Yeah,
you went left with
I
that
had
one.
to
That was
pull
a good
out.
one. That was a real good
I had
one.
to pull that out.
So for me, I only have one repetition between the two of y'all. This one would have to be, and I'm going to give mine in a chronological order. For me, it was the Hart Foundation. That's one of the ones I'm going to repeat. The Hart Foundation was serious. Bret the Hitman Hart was the truth. And he had his bully in Greg the Anvil Neidhart.
Yeah.
He was just a bully.
Yeah.
Bret the Hitman Hart was a show. Anvil was the clean
Brett
work.
was the technician.
Yes, he was. 'Cause he was a phenomenal wrestler. So was his brother, who ended up dying during
that's crazy.
actual live recording. They have that on tape. He jumped again, always trying to find the next biggest thing, trying to create. He jumped off of the lighting rig that's usually situated above the ring, and he fell in a manner that he wasn't supposed to fall, and that wasn't scripted. But you can't plan a 35-foot fall. So the Hart Foundation was definitely one. Well, three rather. Two for me was, what do y'all remember about Strike Force?
Oh shit.
Tito Santana
Wow.
and Rick Martel.
Yes,
They used
I
to come out, they're the white suit. These dudes were possibly the greatest tag team I've seen work together.
Honorable mention for racist characters, Razor Ramon.
He was so not Spanish.
He was not Spanish.
He called Tito Santana Chico Santana.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Very good bringing that up.
Razor Ramon.
So Tito Santana was a legend. Rick Martel, they became famous together. They were an amazing tag team. Strike Force was a force to be reckoned
And
with.
then later on, Rick Martel became Rick the Model.
Yes, he
Martel.
did. You see how
Wow,
it? Yeah,
yo.
now it all comes back.
Holy shit.
But for me, my number one group
Yeah.
ever, tag team. And I went left in y'all, because trust me, I was a huge Demolition fan. And I was definitely a huge Legion of Doom fan.
Yeah.
But I had to give it up to the Rockers.
Oh yeah.
Marty Jannetty.
And Shawn Michaels.
Wow.
Those dudes, like Strike Force, were very fast,
They were
small
fast.
dudes.
Yeah, they was jumping all over the
They
damn
were
place.
always all over the
Yeah,
place, man.
yeah.
And you had no idea what they were going to do next. They were the death-defying act during that time. Both of those tag team groups I mentioned.
They were acrobats. Like,
All those guys were
yeah,
flipping, doing double backflips off of the top rope, landing on somebody outside the ring. It was just phenomenal. So those are my top 3 tag team groups, man.
Nice.
So
I like this.
I like that we all
this.
we threw it back a little bit, man. Great job, guys. Great job. So
Definitely with the British Bulldogs.
the
and
British
Rockers,
Bulldog, yo, a little throwback right there, man.
Yeah.
So here goes, I guess the last question I say for y'all.
Yeah.
What is y'all greatest rivalry that you remember?
Oh, I know mine.
That's easy for me. The greatest rivalry is what set the whole thing off. Because Hulk Hogan is that transcendent star of the WWF, he was the biggest face.
Yes, he was. Correct.
And the biggest heel, which was his nemesis. And probably one of my favorite wrestlers, because he just was just an asshole. And I rock with it because I'm kind of an asshole.
It resonated.
Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Okay, so
Who was not Scottish.
No, he's not. Some more racist shit.
Yeah. He was Canadian, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
he
he was
was.
Canadian. Yeah.
Also kind of a transcendent star. Because if you remember, he had a couple movies under his
Yeah,
belt.
he had the big movie. Was it
They
one?
Live.
Yes, that one, which opens a lot of eyes. Which actually, we need to talk about that off camera for a minute.
Yeah. So that's probably it for me, because when you had the cartoon, the Saturday morning cartoon of the wrestlers.
You remember that shit?
Yeah. Hulk Hogan was like the leader of the faces, the good guys, and Rowdy Roddy Piper
Was the bad guys.
was the bad guy. He was the leader of the black guys.
The first time I heard the term,
Didn't he curse a couple of times? on
all the
camera?
time.
Yeah.
The first time I heard the term piss and vinegar, somebody was filled with piss and vinegar, was when it was being mentioned in Rowdy Roddy Piper. And if you know the character of Rowdy Roddy Piper, he was like, all right, you know what Rowdy Roddy Piper was? He was, what's the dude's name from who owns Proper 12, the UFC guy?
Conor McGregor.
Conor McGregor.
Roddy Roddy Piper was
Yeah.
Conor McGregor
Before Conor
before
McGregor.
Conor McGregor.
Definitely.
But just in a WWF setting. So
Yeah.
he had all green lights to talk his shit. He was and then he did his shit talking in a kilt.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
That's what made it even better. It was, wait a minute. This guy's wearing a kilt.
Yeah.
Kilted thug.
He's coming out unscripted, just
Yeah.
coming out fucking people up.
Yo, and he used to curse and all. I'm like, yo, this dude is fucking nuts.
Yeah, he was wild. He definitely wild. So Lee, what was your greatest rivalry?
It wasn't really a rivalry, but I just remember it as when the build up to it was we talked about this earlier, Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. Like I was in just waiting for that shit. Like when it happened, like I was sitting like on the edge of my seat, like wow, I can't wait to see this shit. It wasn't a rivalry per se, but just that.
Well, it became that because remember,
No, it definitely did.
Andre the Giant wasn't a heel at first.
Yeah.
He was a face.
Yeah.
So
Hogan made him a heel
Yeah, man.
by beating him.
that match is like legendary. Like out of all matches, anytime, like
I think that was
through whole
WrestleMania
era,
3, 4. It was something like that.
it was
three
like
or four. Yeah.
That pops up when I think about rivalry. Again, it wasn't a big rivalry at that time. It became later on, but that match right there, definitely. And then when Hulk Hogan did that
That's
shit, like I ain't gonna lie, I got a little teary. I was like, yo, he fucking beat him, and then he slammed him again, and then I saw the pain in him after he did that. I was just like,
And then the
damn.
song comes out. I am a real American.
And he has the belt over like, "Ah."
Then somebody throws a flag in the ring and he's got the
Exactly.
flag on looking like Rocky.
Good old boy.
You're like, oh shit. Because remember, that's the message they were sending home during
Good
that
old
time.
boys,
though.
yeah. He's the American. He was the good old American.
Same thing with Rocky. Same mentality.
Yeah.
But if you notice, going back to the whole racism thing, if you notice, the good guys, quote unquote, were always
Real
the
Americans?
Real and what it meant to be real American was
Blonde hair,
a white
blue eyes.
man. Because if you look at the bad guys, Kamala, like I mentioned earlier, and another tag team just popped in my head. Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov.
Yeah, those guys,
So Iron Sheik was supposed to be from
Iran, which he was actually.
and Nikolai Volkov was supposed to be Russian.
Russia, yeah.
So it's like, okay, Middle East and Russia, those are the bad guys automatically.
Yes.
Regardless of what their political affiliations
Yeah.
are, just bad guys.
And they did the same thing though to like even Asian descent. Like Ricky the Dragon Steamboat in the beginning,
Yeah.
they didn't know how to bring him out, but still during the time frame, you got an Asian guy. So they made him to be like this wicked karate dude that would fuck people up.
Yeah.
And then the other one again was because real talk, the Samoan background also got a lot of
Yeah.
backlash. Like Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
Yeah.
You know, he grew to be a face because people had no choice but to love him.
Yeah.
because of his antics.
Yeah, he's a great character.
Yes.
Great character.
So my best rivalry is way. It's toned down a little bit.
You're right back.
More than you guys. My greatest rivalry would have to be Jake the Snake Roberts and Ravishing Rick Rude.
That was a great one.
Those guys hated each other.
Yeah.
And they displayed it in manners that I don't think I've ever seen at the time.
Wasn't that another censored
Yes, so I'm going to get to that.
episode? Yeah.
So I actually had a chance to see that one time live. They did it in the Garden. I went to a wrestling. My dad took me to this wrestling match one time, and I had the chance to see Ravishing Rick Rude fight Jake the Snake Roberts. And it was a match I didn't have to see live because what ended up happening was Jake the Snake Roberts was so tired of Rick Rude's antics of being this ravishing guy. When Ravishing Rick Rude would go to the top of the rope to do his little dance, Jake the Snake Roberts came from behind and pulled his pants down.
Yep.
And that's when it got censored.
Yep.
And Ravishing Rick Rude fled out the ring with his fucking pants off, and he can't even get his shit back on. I think
dick and balls all out.
Yeah, it was everywhere. And I didn't have to see that, but those guys hated each other. Rick Rude was also petrified of snakes. So Jake the Snake would come down and catch him with his, I forgot the name of his snake.
Damien,
holy shit.
Yeah.
He would throw Damien out on the ring and it fucked things up, man. So their rivalry was something crazy, man. I definitely have to mention that on a lower tier, not being, of like the champions.
No, but still a great rivalry. Definitely.
Yeah, we were talking about boxing rivalries, so it's just funny just to bring this into a wrestling aspect. But I would say this, without 80s wrestling, for being young boys going into adolescence and figuring out ways how to release that fucking stress.
Yeah.
Wrestling did it for us.
Definitely.
It definitely did it for us without a doubt.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? So shout out again to the 80s and WWF and everything that they did.
As racist as y'all were, we were still loving it.
And we didn't really see it though because, like you said, we were young. And then
we didn't see it until later in life.
And our parents, so Conway, you and I shared similar age parents. So we had older parents. So my parents were not watching that shit.
It was the era of, well, let them watch TV. What's the worst that can be on TV? Because it's TV.
Yeah.
They didn't know or understand the imagery that was resonating with us, that was like subconsciously, or I should say seeping into our subconscious. Because best believe, the narrative of wrestling was if you were other than this blonde-haired white male, then you were probably on a lower tier of being accepted or just a straight heel, aka bad guy. Which is sad, but true.
It's true. It's definitely true. But I would say this. Wrestling gave us some solace. It gave us something to look forward to, especially growing up in the hood in the 80s.
Kept us out of trouble.
It kept us, it gave you something to do to look forward to.
Yeah.
Like I remember being young, having the 7-8 inch rubber wrestlers.
Yeah.
And that was like,
I had everyone.
yeah, so that was the
I
way
had
to
the
be able
ring
to
and
play,
everything.
with your friends. It just kept you into something outside of other sports.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, kids have energy. And you could put that energy into something negative and something that's going to get you in trouble, or energy into something positive or something that's just neutral, that's not going to get you into trouble.
Yeah, facts.
And the fact that, just regardless of what imagery they were putting out, wrestling was the thing that kept you out of trouble because you were putting that energy into essentially play fighting. What it really was.
At the end of the day, it was.
Yeah.
Just you had play fighting with a storyline.
Yeah, exactly. So, as far as this whole 80s baby episode, the WWF, we didn't put it in the main portion of this episode, but it was definitely an honorable
Well, we knew it was
mention.
going to run, though. We knew it was going to run a little bit over.
Definitely.
There's just so much to talk about.
Which is why we put it in.
Flashbacks.
Why we put it in the last call.
Correct.
So, we have to get into our segment of what you rocking with, and we have, we make a point to not tell each other what you rocking with beforehand, so it could be a genuine response and genuine reaction to whatever the others say. So with that being said, let's get into what you rocking with.
This is what you rocking with inside the SNA Live podcast.
It's no introduction.
So Malik, I'm gonna let you set it off. What you rocking with this week?
So this week, switched it up a little. I think I did hip hop one time. Something else, I'm not sure, but
Clothing, black clothing
yes,
lines.
black clothing lines. So this week I'm going with, I'm going to title it Health is Wealth.
Okay.
So lately, specifically ever since the pandemic happened, obviously not just me, but a lot of other people changed their way of, just of life and how what you ate, how you perceive life, how you perceive this world, what was going on. One thing I've changed dramatically is definitely what I'm putting in my body. So I started with this whole, just, if anybody knows Dr. Sebi, I can't wait till that documentary comes out. I really got up on.
By the way, if you guys want to hear a little bit more about this topic,
I was going to speak on that.
We had season 1. You can check us out on our podcast channels.
It ain't easy being green.
I think it's episode 4 on season 1. We had a whole topic, a whole show dedicated to
holistic health.
Holistic health and bad diets versus good diets.
Yeah, so please go back to season 1 and definitely look that up. But I just really got on this whole health thing. Now listen, you guys are sitting here looking at us. We're drinking and we're smoking cigars. This is not the most healthiest shit in the world.
No, it's not. But that doesn't mean this is it's the only thing that gets done.
In life, with everything, it's balance. So yes, we do this, but at the end of the day, we don't do this every day, 24/7. There's a
we just do it 5 days a week.
So with that, there's a balance. So you have to ingest your body with things that are good for you.
Correct.
So I'm really on this health kick right now. I recently just started trying.
Welcome to the crowd, because Malik was the shittiest eater.
Definitely.
And the shittiest
I would eat
health.
I would eat the worst shit in the world. And it comes from my background because I've always been skinny and I always was able to. I have a fast metabolism. I was always able to just burn off whatever I ate. So I just ate whatever the hell I want. I'm 41 years old now. I can't do that shit anymore. So I've really got into this Irish sea moss, black seed oil, soursop leaf, oil of oregano.
So if you guys don't know any of these things that he's talking about, this is actually more common nowadays for you guys to find. Yeah. And for our Caribbean folk, soursop is also guavanana. So it's the same thing, just different terminology from same region. So soursop is known to be a holistic cancer killer.
Yes.
Correct?
Not only soursop, black seed oil.
Well, black seed oil is also for your immune system boosting. So I also live off of, I've upped my dosage. I am up to a full tablespoon more of black seed oil a day.
Yes, so I wake up in the morning. If I don't make my smoothie, because sometimes I'm just in a rush, I don't have time to make my smoothie. If I don't put it in my smoothie, I'm one of those, I can drink anything. I'll put it in my water. I literally put a tablespoon in my water, shake it up, and I'll drink it as I'm going through my morning.
So I'm a killer.
As I get in the car, I'm drinking.
I actually grab the bottle and I swig out of the bottle.
Oh, there's nothing wrong. I can do that. I'm to the point now. I've taken it so much.
That's the point. It becomes part of your regimen.
It becomes part of your regimen. So again, obviously you see us. We own a cigar lounge. We smoke a lot. Black seed oil is really good for mucus. And again, if you're
anti-inflammatory,
if you prescribe to Dr. Sebi, he believed that mucus is the
root of all killers.
The root of all killers.
Well, but if you get into a scientific background, like if you break it down a little bit, if you look at all the killer diseases, they are mucus based.
It's all mucus based.
Especially stuff that is in your respiratory. If you get lung cancer or things like that. But mucus is the killer of the body. The same way dust is the killer of your computer, mucus is the killer of the body.
So it's funny, you guys are just sitting, you were laughing at me because you see me coughing. I'm coughing because literally, again, everybody's different. Everybody's body works different. But mine, literally, when I take the black seed oil, within a half an hour, I feel the mucus leaving my body. So I'm coughing up the mucus. That's all.
So your body's still getting used to the dosages.
But you're also getting rid of it, though.
That's the thing. I'm getting rid of it. So when I'm coughing, I'm getting rid of all the mucus. That's the black seed oil.
So I will say this too with you, man. Just to touch on your topic. So I've been a huge black seed, sea moss taker, soursop. I've been doing this well over a year and a half now, like every day, daily. Your body's gonna get acclimated to it, and sooner or later you won't cough it up. It'll just come out through your system, passing it through your urine or through your waste. So it's not gonna come up naturally anymore through your chest. So that's a good thing. But guys, listen, what he's saying is dead ass truth. Like if you really want to invest in anything, it's cool to have a gym membership. But honestly, let's be real with you. How many of you guys have had a gym membership that you actually finished your whole membership without not going for like 2-3 months? So if you invest in the things that you put into your body, you're going to have a better output instead of just always just working on the body physically. You got to work on it from the inside out.
So that was always my thing. It was the food that I didn't.
That was your last stage.
That was my last stage.
Yeah.
Working out, going to the gym, that's not a problem for me. I can do that. I've been working out since I was 12 years old.
Yeah, but the problem is when you're working out and then you're finishing off 3 bottles in a weekend and then you're smoking, it takes its toll still.
It definitely, again.
And then eating fast food on top of that.
Yeah,
on top of eating the double burgers or whatever the case is.
I stopped fast food years ago. My issue is the greasy foods, is the cholesterol. But anyway, another one, oil of oregano.
Yeah, it's another one too.
Looking to lose weight, especially around the stomach area. Dude, I did this. I don't know if y'all remember. It was maybe sometime in the summertime where I lost like just weight. It was because I was taking that religiously, and it kills all.
So
the
one
gut,
thing I do want to touch on this though.
Gut, it kills.
I want to touch on that though too. So guys, Malik was also working out at the time. So I don't want to paint a bad picture.
Yeah, it's not magic.
It's not, you don't take the oil and you lose the weight. You have to be physically active. I don't want to give any kind of false notations on this.
Thank you for putting that in.
Because it's a fact, because people do believe that they could just take shit and it's just the magic cure for things.
It's not.
Malik was also in a regimen where he was working out. So if he was watching what he's eating and he's active, physically active, whether you're going to run, hit the gym to do some weights, whatever, just be active. Definitely. These types of things will aid in your weight loss and the success
you're going to be shocked. You're going to think something's wrong.
No, so all these things are
going to work.
Yeah, they pull all the bad shit out.
And drink a lot of water, obviously. Drink water, a lot of water.
So everything is predicated off your body weight and your size. So, for me, I'm a larger individual. So for me, I'm polishing off a gallon and 3/4. So I'm doing almost 2 gallons a day. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So your water intake, your vitamin intake, your diet, all that stuff is really big.
Cut down on the greasy foods again. And
this is coming from the king.
This is coming from the king of freaking soul food and Caribbean food and just greasy, all types of food. Just cut it out. Trust me, you'll see definitely a difference. I got to shout out my hometown people also, Pharmacy for Life, because that's who I prescribe to. YO, baby. Styles, what up, man?
DX as well, though, because the first location was in Castle Hill.
It was in Castle Hill. Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
It's still there. I think they just celebrated a 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So definitely go on the website. They have all that. They have the soursop. Another one, sea buckhorn berry, which is also good. That's good for skin. I just got up on that. So definitely just health is wealth, man. Style says that shit all the time. So what I'm rocking with right now is health. Take care of your body, especially if you're a drinker and smoker like we are. Definitely take care of yourself. These are things that, yes, it could be a little pricey, but is your life worth, spending a couple extra dollars versus freaking going to the club or the strip club? Come on, you can do it, man. So
exactly.
You need to attack it before it becomes a problem.
Definitely.
Be proactive.
Especially once you start hitting your 40s.
And like you said, listen, we live a lifestyle that is a little, we run a cigar lounge at the end of the day, amongst other things that we do. But we are predicated off of nightlife. Mm-hmm. So with nightlife comes the cigars, comes the booze, comes the laughs and all that stuff. Yeah. But all three of us are very active individuals, regardless on how you may perceive us to be. Conway works out daily, Malik works out daily, I work out daily. I just ran 3 miles right before we did this show because I knew we were going to be smoking and drinking. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, you have to have the balance. Like that's the key phrase you
Everything
use.
in life is balance.
You have to balance. So it doesn't mean you can't do, just means you have to do other things to help you do what you want to do.
To offset it, exactly.
Correct. Conway, what are you rocking with though?
So, because it's 80's Babies is the title to this episode, I had mentioned Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff earlier.
See the damage we've done, everybody.
And why I fucked with him was because I didn't realize it as a kid. Malik, you say this all the time, I'm about my money. So, Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff, Ric Flair, those are the dudes that for whatever reason just resonated with me. So, my favorite TV show in the 80s was The Jeffersons.
Okay.
So what I'm rocking with this week is George Jefferson.
And what was George Jefferson? Give a little backdrop because people don't know how he was living up on the east side.
He's a legend.
So George Jefferson, the character, was a dude out of Harlem. Came up, hard knock life, like all three of us. But he had that ambition, he had that vision, and he grinded.
Just like all three of us, by the way.
And he had a cleaner store, which grew to then 7 cleaner stores around New York. And he was living the high life. He was on the Upper East Side. He had his little condo. He had a maid. He was doing it big. He was about his paper. He was about his business. He was about his 3-piece suits.
And his sass, yo. His fucking sass.
And he was about telling these white people, fuck y'all. If y'all don't accept me, I'm making paper just like y'all. So, George Jefferson is what I'm rocking with this week. Because, yo, I fucked with him. Because not only was he about his paper, but he was about telling anybody that didn't rock with him, fuck you.
Facts.
I don't care.
Now, I caught a little brain fart real quick. Wasn't Amen also with?
Yeah, that was
spin-off.
Okay.
That was a spin-off.
Yeah. That's what. All right,
that was the original spin-offs from back in the day.
So
Facts.
Sherman Hemsley was the dude that played George Jefferson, and then he played the Deacon Fry in Amen. And pretty much the same character.
That's why I was leading to.
Pretty much, but George Jefferson was more about his paper.
Yes,
Deacon
he
Fry
was.
was he was a shit talker, but he was still about the church.
Yeah,
more so
no, it
than
definitely
anything.
was.
But George Jefferson was my dude back in the day.
I get it, man.
That was my dude. Because growing up, I got into this conversation years back. It had to be easily like almost 20 years ago, where people, I would get into conversations with my peoples or whatever, and it was like, good times was the shit or whatever. And I was like, yeah, good times was cool, but like I was living good times, you know what I'm saying? So that was my life. So my whole thing was, I knew where I was at. I was focused on where I wanted to go. And where I wanted to go was the Jeffersons.
Yeah.
Because despite the fact that he was about his paper and upward mobility, he never forgot where he came from.
Yeah.
He was always repping Harlem. He was always repping, the grind. He was always repping being a businessman, and at the same time never losing his true self.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And that's what I'm all about. You know what I'm saying? We have people that come here and they're like, Conway, man, you about your business, but I can tell you still hood at your core.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I'm saying?
You can see that.
Because you're never gonna
You don't lose it. Yeah.
where you come from. You know what I mean?
Well, you can if you let it go.
You can if you, but I was never an OJ type dude. You know what I mean? Shout out to Rental James. So I never was that type of dude. So George Jefferson is what I'm rocking with this week.
That's what's up. That's what's up, man.
Right, what you rocking with?
So, like you, I kept mine 80s based. But before I do that, man, I would just like to give a shout out during this time frame that we're doing this. Us here at the SNA Live podcast, as well as Smoke and Ashes Cigar Lounge, would love to let all the ladies know during this wonderful month of March that we're in. International Women's Day. There's so many great things I'm seeing coming out lately with not just people of color, but women of color, becoming more entrepreneurial, business minded individuals, growing and doing their own thing.
Yes.
It's just a beautiful thing seeing, because again, just being people of color and then seeing the rise of women during this time, especially women of color. It's a beautiful thing to see the power, the confidence, and they're actually proving through true and blue. So I just want to give a shout out.
Quick shameless plug. We are doing an all women's to celebrate Women's Month.
That is correct.
In March 28th, we will be having a pop-up event featuring all female self-employed businesses here at Smoke and Ashes.
That's correct.
200 Walraven Drive.
That's right.
Teaneck,
New Jersey.
So come out.
766.
Come out and definitely represent. We representing for the ladies.
Facts.
Go ahead,
and this whole month we're actually doing that, so we've been doing that. So I mean, again, big shout out, because honestly, our following here, both which I anticipate the podcast to continue to grow at, which it has, and our lounge as well. We have a huge female contingency that follows us and supports us thoroughly.
Thank you, ladies.
So without you guys, we would not be here, and that was actually said on one of our posts. So again, big shout out to the women that are out there moving and shaking and doing the thing. For me though, I kept it 80s like you, Conway, and I went left. What I'm rocking with right now is probably the main reason why I'm just a fucked up person in the head sometimes. But I want to give a shout out to the hot boxes, the illegal boxes, WHT, late night, before there was Skinamax. Y'all niggas had no idea I was going left with this. If y'all don't know what WHT is, WHT was just like HBO, except you had to have a hot box to get it. This is where you saw the good on the night tip. Okay? So I'm giving a big shout out to bullet cable boxes. If y'all remember the double bullets, you had to put that silver filter in the back to help filter. Yo,
Yes, sir.
shout out to illegal hot boxes in the 80s, because if it wasn't for y'all, I don't know how many Tyson fights I wouldn't have seen, how many scenes of Lisa Bonet I might not have seen ever. Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, she was the Beyonce of her
Yes,
time,
she
like
was.
Jay-Z said.
Yes, she was. The first time I had a chance, I forgot the name of that movie right now. I know you probably remember it.
Yep.
Conway.
It was
Shit. It'll come back to you.
Yeah, it'll come. It'll come.
But yo, Lisa Bonet's scene in there was the first. Remember, we're growing up as Cosby kids in the 80s. So Lisa Bonet was Lisa Bonet, you know?
It's like, oh
shit.
She was Denise Huxtable.
Denise Huxtable on the Cosby Show. So she had a movie where it was the first time she was revealing herself, and I was very lucky to have WHT at the time, and I was able to see this like at 2 in the morning. So again, big shout out to the hot boxes, illegal cable boxes of the 80s. Y'all got us through some shit you don't even know that.
We are so Bronx.
And you taught us some shit.
Angel Heart.
Angel fucking Heart. Conway with the win. Yes, he remembered. I knew that was going to come out sooner or later. Again, guys, I know y'all, if y'all not from our gen, y'all probably looking at us like we're crazy. You guys are old. Whatever y'all want to say. For the fact, we're not old.
Nah.
We right in the middle.
Yeah.
Because we can still bridge with y'all young folk, and we still know how to vibe with the older folk.
Super duper fast.
We're right down the middle. You can ask anybody that comes here, celebrates with us, chills with us. But yo, 80s, illegal boxes, I'm rocking with heavy this week for this segment. Because like I said, man, I wouldn't have seen a lot of shit.
Yeah.
What y'all remember about Spice?
I remember Spice.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
I remember Spice.
This before Adam and Eve and all that shit. It was
Yeah,
Spice.
Spice.
We're talking
Yeah.
about the naughty channels, guys.
Yeah.
And then half of y'all listen, y'all should be laughing right now because y'all know y'all either seen Spice or wish y'all seen Spice, but know exactly what I'm talking about. So again, big shout outs to the illegal hot boxes and WHT for, I guess at the end of the day, teaching, but damn, creating a monster at the same time.
Yeah.
But again, yeah, that's what I'm rocking with
I
this
love the
week.
world we're
Nice,
rocking with this
nice.
week. Nice way to end it off.
Thank y'all for rocking with us. And as we usually say at the end of last call, chill to the next episode.
Yes, sir.
Peace.
You have just listened to the SNA Live Experience. We want to thank you for tuning in with us. We'll be back with another episode.